Well, hey there, guys. Greetings and salutations and welcome to this special broadcast on the John Campea channel, our open spoiler review of Captain America Brave New World. Now, in case the title didn't give it away, this is going to be a full open spoiler discussion. So if you haven't seen Captain America Brave New World yet, or if you're worried about finding out spoilers, then maybe just add this video to your favorites list or watch later list and come on back and join me a little bit later. For now, though, you've been warned, this is an open spoiler discussion. And here's how our discussion is going to go. By the way, my name's John Campea. Good to have you guys here. Hello to everybody who's already in the live chat. Good to have you guys joining me here today. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start in the first 10 minutes or so, giving my kind of spoilery thoughts about Captain America Brave New World. And then we're going to spend the vast majority of our time taking your thoughts, theories, opinions, and questions, observations, whatever, about Captain America Brave New World. If you're watching live, and you have to be watching live, go ahead and use the super chat feature to send in a question. And as long as I deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, we'll address it here on the show. All right. And then I'll let you know when I'm going to turn super chats off. For now, they're open, but I'll let you know when I'm about to turn them off. All right. Hello to everybody in there, Andrew, Luis, M2G, Christopher, King Daddy Goat, and everybody else who's here joining me here today. Good to have you guys here. So let's dive into it, shall we? Going to talk about Captain America Brave New World. If you guys saw my out of theater reaction, or if you saw the review we did on the show on Friday, I'm not a big fan of the movie. I don't think it was awful. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Captain America Brave New World is a terrible movie. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think it's good, right? Overall, I don't think it's good. There are good things about it. There are elements of it that I particularly did enjoy. But unfortunately, the stuff that I thought was just very poorly done. It's a terrible script. The script is terrible. The dialogue was very rough. Dialogue was very janky, very, very exposition. That's a sign to me of kind of a weak script, is when all the dialogue seems to be very exposition heavy. And again, don't get me wrong. You need some exposition in every movie. Every movie needs some exposition. But a really good script will then show you. A good script with a good director will show you stuff, let you figure stuff out, let you interpret things, let you deduce things, rather than just, so here's what is going to happen. This guy did this, and I feel mad about that, and they don't like that I feel like. And I found that the script was, all the dialogue was very, very heavy exposition. And just overall, just a pretty poor script. I don't think the direction of it was very good. The flow of the movie felt very disjointed. It just kind of felt like this happens, then this happens. You know, I've said this before, right? The difference between a good flow in a movie and a bad flow in a movie is the bad flow in the movie is this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Good flow in a movie is this happens, therefore this happens. As a result, this happens, therefore this happens. It sounds like a little semantic game, but it's very, like when you start looking for that in a movie, it becomes very obvious which movies are this happens and this. It's just a thrown together series of events versus a story that truly flows. And I found that in this, one of the things I said in my out of theater review was that it's not that I'm saying that Captain America Brave New World isn't a very good comic book movie. It's beyond that. I just don't think it's a very good movie. I think by the standard, just building block foundation stuff of making a good movie, I don't think Captain America Brave New World did a tremendously good job. Not terrible, but not a tremendously good job. Now, look, I want to start by talking about the things I liked, okay? Some of these I mentioned in the other review, but we'll go into more detail here. I want to start with who I thought was the MVP of the movie, which was Isaiah Bradley. I love the Isaiah character. And I can't remember the act. If any of you guys in the live chat know the actor's name, I'm freezing on the actor's name right now. But I thought the Isaiah character, I wish Isaiah was on screen more, right? I wish Isaiah was on the screen more in the movie. I wish we got more of him, because every moment he's on the screen, not only just him himself, but his dynamics with Sam. It's just understanding his backstory, all that kind of stuff. I just really like the character a lot, and I thought he was tremendous in it. Carl Lumbly, thank you. First person I saw put it in was Jose Miaz. Carl Lumbly, that's who it was. He did great in it. If they actually, I don't think they should do a Isaiah movie, and I don't think they should do an Isaiah show. But if they did a show and had Isaiah as the second or third or fourth character in it, I'd be totally down for that. I'd love to see more of him. I think he's got great background. I think he's got so much charm. You just like the character, and I liked him a lot every moment that he was on screen. All right. Another thing I really liked is the combat sequence over the Indian Ocean around Tiamat, around the Celestial. I thought the action in that was, well, don't get me wrong, it wasn't Top Gun Maverick, but I thought the action in that sequence was well choreographed. I thought it was exciting. I thought the shot selection was great. I thought the rapidness of it flowed with what they were doing. Most importantly, it wasn't just action for the sake of action. The action itself was a part of telling the story. Japan and the US are on this brink of war. They're being manipulated, and that's a story being told through the action. It wasn't just action for the sake of action, because action without narrative purpose is what? Visual noise. Action without narrative purpose is visual noise. And I thought this really great set piece was driven by narrative, and therefore I got really into it. I thought it was exciting and thrilling, had some really cool moments, some very cool shots. Yeah, I dug that scene very much. I've got some issues with the scene, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The other thing you guys already know that I really liked was the Red Hulk fight sequence. I thought it was great. I thought it was pretty badass. I mean, it's clear that this Red Hulk is nowhere near on the power level of Bruce Banner's Hulk, and that's fine. It was still a Hulk, and it was Hulk doing Hulk stuff. And again, it was narrative being told through the action. I thought a lot of it was really fun. It was energized. It was good. I was literally smiling ear to ear the entire Hulk fight sequence. I thought that was really good. I loved the Bucky scene with Sam. I don't know why Bucky didn't drop his campaigning to help. Hey, we're on the brink of war at Japan. There's all this bad stuff happening. I could use a hand. Sorry, man. I got a campaign stop. Sorry. I'm sure you'll do great. Like, whatever. That's aside from it. But I really thought the conversation was great. We all expected Bucky to show up at some point. And he comes in, and it felt good. And it just felt really good as he was leaving. He says, "Love you, buddy." Like, I thought that was really nice. It was a good scene and all that kind of stuff. By the way, I already said this on Friday's show. Favorite line in the movie. And I love this line. As Sam is fighting Red Hulk, and he says, "I should have taken the serum. Bucky's full of shit." I love that line. I thought it was such a Sam line. It was like, it's sometimes they're great lines, but writers have the wrong character saying it. You know what I mean? You've probably noticed that in some movies, right? Like a great line, but they had the wrong character saying it. That was such a great Sam line. "I should have taken the serum. Bucky's full of shit." Perfect Sam, perfect line said by the right guy at the right time. And I gotta admit, I laughed out loud. I thought that line was perfect. Chef's kiss for that moment. I also really do like the general setup. You know, in a Marvel Cinematic Universe world that has had alien invasions and giant celestials coming out of the oceans and these monstrosities destroying cities and all this kind of stuff, somebody like a General Thunderbolt Ross would look pretty appealing to the American people, right? In understanding circumstances, and context is king. So I think the general premise of that, of a Thunderbolt Ross kind of then being said, and of course he was the Secretary of Defense and all that, he had worked with Avengers and stuff like that before, was very hard on the Avengers, but that might be something that would have appealed to people. Right? So I thought the general setup of the movie was pretty good. Okay. That's some of the things that I liked. There's also a whole bunch in the movie that I'm just neutral on, that I'm not going to mention as either a positive or a negative. So there's a lot in the movie that I was just basically neutral on. But here's some of the things that I really, really did not like. I already kind of mentioned off the top, the dialogue of this movie was horrible. Like really bad. Like just stuffed full of exposition. There were a couple of really cute lines, but most of the sequences in the scenes, even by comic book movie standards, okay? I understand dialogue in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie is going to be different than dialogue in The West Wing. I get that. I totally understand that. But I'm saying even by comic book movie standard, I'm listening to just the simple conversations. I'm like, people don't talk like this. Even in the MCU, people don't talk like this. And that was a hard thing to get over because it was a constant throughout most of the movie. The other thing is, while I really like the action sequence above the Indian Ocean and I really like the action sequence with the Hulk, most of the hand-to-hand combat stuff was awful. Like Book of Boba Fett level bad. You know, one of my meta criticisms of Book of Boba Fett is like whenever he was into hand-to-hand combat, it was slow and clunky, like, especially in that opening action sequence when I think, where were they? In Mexico? I think they were in Mexico. Anyway. And like Cap gets into this hand-to-hand combat with a bunch of guys. And a lot of it was just like the fight choreography was, it felt weird and slow and clunky. And they tried to compensate for that by having the shield work be even more magical. Like, listen, even in the Steve Rogers Captain America stuff, you can make an argument that sometimes the stuff he's able to do with the shield is like pure magic. Like, there's one thing that I can throw this and make it bounce off that and bounce off that and bounce off that, then come to me. Okay, we'll stretch believability a little bit and then we'll accept that. But even Steve Rogers, Chris Evans Captain America, sometimes is doing things with the shield that's like, come on, that's not good aim. That's just witchcraft. And boy, in Captain America Brave New World, they went really overboard with the magic shield. The Steve Rogers stuff was guilty of it sometimes too, but I felt like they compensated with their bad combat, their bad hand-to-hand action by really overdoing the like literally, I thought Sam was Harry Potter. Or you know what it was like? It was like what's Michael Rocker's character's name again in Guardians of the Galaxy? Why am I freezing on anyway, you guys know, with his little spear. And he could magically control the little arrow, the little spear going all over the place. That's kind of what it was like in Captain America Brave New World. It wasn't just good aim and good trajectory. It was like pure Michael Rocker. Yondu. Thank you, AL. Why did I freeze on Yondu's name? I'm not really sure. Thank you, AL. Appreciate that. So it was really, a lot of times it felt like Yondu, where I'm just going to throw the shield somewhere and make it go bing, 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 and then back in my hands. I was like, and again, Steve Rogers as Captain America was a little guilty of that sometimes too. Okay, I'm not saying Sam's Captain America is the only one that did, but I felt like they went really overboard with that. And yeah, let me bring up this other thing too. And this may not bother some people, but it's something that bothers me a lot in these comic book movies, not just Sam Wilson's Captain America, but the whole MCU, the DCU, the DCEU, whatever. Okay, this is something that drives me crazy. Okay, let me give you an example of this. In Civil War, when Rhodey gets shot down out of the sky and he falls to the ground, I'm sorry, that kills him instantly. But John, you see, he was wearing the armor which could withstand the impact. It doesn't matter if the armor can withstand the impact. You are still flesh and blood and bone inside of that shell. And when your body is falling at terminal velocity and it suddenly hits the ground, Rhodey, yeah, maybe the War Machine armor doesn't crack. That's fine. But War Machine's body, Rhodey's body becomes soup inside the armor. His body becomes completely shattered, liquefied, and turns into soup inside the body. All right? Or inside the armor. So as I'm watching the fight with Hulk, and Hulk does something and Sam blocks it with his shield. And again, it's not just this Captain America movie. Other comic book movies do it too, and it always drives me crazy. Like Sam blocks it with his shield. It's like, okay, the shield won't break. But you know what is going to break? Every bone in Sam's arm. That thing hits the shield, Sam's shoulder rips out of its socket, every bone in his body turns to dust, and it's like, whatever, but I held up the shield. Yeah, the shield won't break, but your body will break behind it. And again, it's not just a Captain America problem. It's a problem in a lot of comic book movies, but that is one of the things in comic book movies that drives me crazy. It's like, yeah, I get it. I get it. Now, like Bacon, this is the common refrain that I get. Like Bacon is saying, John, these are comic book movies. Suspend your disbelief. Okay. I am all for understanding that comic book movie universe logic is not supposed to be the same as our real world logic. I get that, and I accept that. What I want, though, is for movies, be they real world movies, fantasy movies, sci-fi movies, or comic book movies, to just adhere to their own internal logic. In our real world, a man can't fly and shoot lasers out of his eyes. In a comic book world, you can, and I can suspend my disbelief. But when you set up your own set of logic rules in your cinematic universe, i.e., the human body is still the human body. The human body is frail. The human body will shatter and break. So, like, I don't care if Sam's a really tough guy. If he gets thrown through a concrete wall, Sam's going to die. Like, he can block something with a shield, but if his body still then gets slammed through 5 concrete walls, Sam's going to die. And I just wish they would stay consistent. Just stay consistent within the rules of your own universe. That's all I'm asking. You don't have to be real world rules. Just by your own rules. Follow them. Anyway, that's one kind of thing. So, here's the thing. Let's now move on to the leader. Really? The leader is so smart. This drove me crazy. When the stuff in the Indian Ocean was happening and the leader's master plan became revealed, I literally did this in the theater. Oh my God. The leader who could figure out that there's multiple universes with other versions of the Avengers and who are going to come and our Avengers are going to have to just figured it out. Just figured it out with his brain. Right? Just figured it out with his brain. A guy who could just, by playing a song, not only turn a good guy bad, but a good guy bad with very specific instructions. Okay. And his big master plan is, I'm going to get on the phone with President Ross, and I'm going to keep talking to him till he gets so angry that he turns into the Red Hulk. That was your plan? The whole time I'm watching it and leaders talking to Ross, I'm going to destroy you the way you destroyed me. I'm like the whole time. I didn't do it in theater because I don't want to be rude, but I wanted to shout at the screen, take off the fucking headset. Just turn off the call. Don't talk to this guy anymore. Instead, President Ross is like walking through the whole ship. Oh no, he's saying so many mean, provocative things to me. Oh, and he's stumbling through the hallways. Oh, I'm just like, take off the fucking headset. Just disconnect. Hang up. Take off the headset. But no. President Ross is so stupid. Oh no, he keeps saying all these things and I'm getting so stressed out. Oh, and I can't breathe. Oh, but I'll keep listening to him because what can happen? And like, this was the master plan. This was a plan that just like that, Ross going, oh, this guy's an asshole. Take the headphones off. Plan dead. That was the whole plan. I'm just saying, for a guy who was supposed to be so brilliant that could literally program people he has never met by sending a couple of flashes over their cell phone and playing a song, could specifically program people to do specific things. Hey, how about this? You want Ross to show the world how bad he is? Okay. Instead of, mind controlling Isaiah, why didn't you just do that to Ross? Make Ross call a press conference and go, I held people against their will illegally. I forced them to do labor to produce this, and I didn't okay, your whole plan is to get Ross to reveal himself. Okay, I don't know. Instead of mind controlling 700 other people to do stupid stuff, and instead of your master plan being, I'm going to talk mean to him over his headset, when the guy why not just program Thunderbolt Ross to just get up and onto a stage and confess to everything? Ruin himself. Program Ross to get up at a news conference and then drop trow and start jerking Yankee Doodle Dandy until he super splunks over everybody in the audience. That would embarrass him. That would discredit him. That would destroy him. But no, he had to find this huge roundabout way to doing all this stuff that to me was just like, it drives me crazy in any movie when this super evil genius is actually kind of stupid. Is actually kind of dumb. Is actually not that smart. Anyway, there are like 35 points of failure. Like 35 points of failure to the leader's plan. Oh, and by the way, when the one military guy, the friend of Cap, finds out that the president had been being fed gamma radiated pills, well, okay, so the leader stops him from sending the message to Sam. But did you see what happened in the movie? He's on the phone with Sam, right? He's on the phone with his guy, finding out that there's gamma radiation in the pills. Like, I got to go call somebody. And instead of just going, hang up, call Captain America. No, he goes for a walk. The military guy goes for a walk outside of the base, up onto the hill, away from everybody else. Ooh, I got to go for a long walk. And luckily, the leader just happens to be standing out there on that hill. I got to stop you from sending that call. What if the guy just hung up and went, well, better call Captain America? Nope. You know what I need to do? Before I call and talk to Captain America, I need to go for a good stroll. I need to go for a good old walk. And he walks out of the base and he goes walking up on the hill and, ooh, look at that. The leader's there. Oh no. I mean, come on. It's just, and listen, and this is another thing I hated. Nothing I absolutely hated. You can't talk down a Hulk. Granted, Red Hulk isn't exactly Bruce Hulk, but still, you can't just talk down a Hulk. In the older Hulk movies, the only way that could happen was Betty Ross. The literal love of his life, his heart and his soul. And only Betty could talk him down. Later, in Age of Ultron, Bruce had fallen in love with Black Widow, who's also super intelligent. And they figured out a way, a system, a pattern, a formula, if you will. Hey, big guy, sun's getting real low. Okay. But that person who's like becoming the most important person in the world to him, she's got that ability to bring him down through something that they mutually worked out together, right? Okay. So you've got Betty was able to talk him down. The current love of his life, who's probably the person that meant more to him than anybody else, Natasha. Sam would not be able to talk a raging Red Hulk down because Sam doesn't mean shit to Ross. Ross quite frankly, doesn't even like Sam that much. He doesn't even like him. He's not an important person to him. What I thought they were going to do, and what they should have done, is Betty should have showed up there. Amongst the trees with the flowers, Betty should have showed up there. Because it's far more acceptable by the Marvel Cinematic Universe's own logic. It's far more palatable that Betty, the most important person in Ross's life. Like, the movie goes to great extents, to great extremes to communicate over and 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 over again. My daughter, forgive me. Yes, Harrison, we know. You've said it 25 times already. But anyway, the movie went to great lengths to really drive into our heads that Betty means everything to Ross, right? Betty means everything to him. And he would do anything to win her back over, to win her affections back over as his daughter, right? So what you do is, that's the one human connection he has. You have it, you write it into the script that when she saw that there was an assassination attempt, she decided, I need to see him. Decides to go to this great press conference where he's going to announce this peace accord. And then because she's there, they're able to bring her to that tree line, the flowers and all that kind of stuff. And she gets out of the car and she talks him down. It was bullshit that Sam talked him down. Now, I get it. You can say, well, Judd, you see, Sam was a counselor. I get that. He's a smart dude, right? But this isn't some guy dealing with PTSD. This is a Hulk that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has already set up can only be talked down by probably the most important person in that Hulk's life. And it ain't Sam. So they had a huge missed opportunity, especially considering over and over and over and over and over and over again throughout the movie, it's, oh, I see my daughter. Let me guess. You're going to say something about your daughter because he does it the whole movie. And then they don't even use that setup to do a payoff at the end. Instead, they just use it for some little nice heartfelt moment that she comes to visit him in prison. Total missed opportunity. Anyway. So that drove me crazy. Some people have been asking me about the other Black Widow. That's one of those characters that to me is more neutral. I thought there was upside to her. I thought she was interesting. I did. I thought the character was interesting. They didn't do much with her. So by the end of the day, I wasn't even really sure why she was in the movie, but she was at least a little bit interesting. So I'm going to neither put her in the positive or the negative, either positive or negative in the movie. I'm going to label that one as neutral. A lot of people want to talk about the look of the leader. I was fine with the look of the leader. I don't think the leader is somebody you could have made look like the comic book and not have it feel positively ridiculous on a live action screen. So the approach they took, I was fine with it. Yeah. I know there were a lot of people who really didn't like the look of the leader. I thought it was okay. I really don't have an issue with it. I thought it looked fine. Like, he definitely looked disfigured and like a monstrosity, but it didn't go to like hyper ridiculous extents. So yeah, I was all right with it. I was fine with it. It was cool. Boy, where else can I go here? Maybe you guys can remind me some of the other things. Anyway, by the end of the day, and oh yeah, listen too, I am somebody who really likes the Ed Norton Hulk movie, obviously because I'm in it. So I'm somebody who really likes that movie. I do. And so I was really pleased to hear that we were going to get Ross and that Tim Blake Nelson was coming back as leader. And because I like that movie, right? But you know what? At the end of the day, when it was all said and done, the one criticism I heard from the early reactions, I have to say I agree with. This did not feel like a Captain America movie. It felt like, Hulk 2. A Hulk movie that not many people saw. I mean, let's face it, not a lot of people saw that Hulk movie compared to other MCU movies, right? So to basically make your movie a sequel to that Hulk movie, I thought was a bad idea. I didn't think it worked. Also, let me throw this out there. This first. A lot of people ask me, what did I think about Giancarlo Esposito? Giancarlo Esposito is a treasure and should be protected at all costs. And I liked that he was in this movie. The character was completely useless. And quite frankly, not all that bright. Not all that bright. I'm not sure why the leader wouldn't have eliminated him so he couldn't spill all the information to Captain America. I mean, he thought, oh yeah, Cap's going to come. I'll just send my big guy after him. That'll hold him off. I don't know. But it's Giancarlo Esposito and he's awesome. I love Giancarlo Esposito, but I agree with Amir on this one. He was wasted on this role. He was wasted on the role. So I'll just put that one out there. And I got to address this. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with me on this. What's the name of the character who's Cap's new Falcon, the new sidekick? Is it Joaquin? Is that his name? I can't remember. What's the name of that character? Like for now, I'll just call him Falcon, whatever. He's a good kid, right? I'm keeping an eye on the live chat to see if somebody puts in the name of the actual character. He's a good kid. He's obviously got a good heart and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of it, it is Joaquin Torres. Thank you. Thank you. It's a nice scene at the end when Sam is in Joaquin's hospital room. And they're talking to me, I want to be like you. Okay, that's nice. But all of a sudden, this kid's an Avenger? What? Hey, on your first mission out, you pretty much just about got yourself killed, but you're a good kid and blah, blah. You're going to be an Avenger with me as I put the Avengers together. What? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of CW's Arrowverse. That I used to love Arrow. Like I love Stephen Amell. Stephen Amell's awesome. I used to love that show. But once they got into season 3, it's like you went from being this like a very special individual was a superhero, right? And all of a sudden, hey, you're a pretty good guy and you know how to shoot a gun and you put a hockey mask on. You're a superhero. Hey, you're a really nice girl and you went and took some boxing classes at the local YMCA. You're a superhero. And they just started handing it out. And I'm watching this. I'm like, really? This kid's going to be an Avenger. This kid's an Avenger? And again, John, in the comic books, it doesn't matter. Comic books are the comic books, the movies are the movies. They're two different things. And I mean, that seemed really forced. Like he's a good, oh, you know what? You're a good kid with a good heart. You're an Avenger. What? What? Okay. Sure, I guess. I mean, so that kind of drove me crazy. The post-credit scene was completely useless, by the way. It doesn't set up anything. All it is just kind of telling us stuff. Yeah, we already know. The Secret Wars is coming. We know. We know Secret Wars is coming. Like, I kind of like it when a post-credit scene is either just really fun for the sake of being fun. That's great. Or is giving us insight into what's coming. But we already know Doomsday and Secret Wars are coming. We already know what Secret Wars is. We already know there's a multiverse. And that post-credit scene wasn't fun. Hey, I came to visit you in jail. Why? So you could say something ominous to me. Like, did you notice that? They never gave any reason why Sam went to go see him. Sam goes to see him for no reason. There was no purpose given for why he was even there, other than for Leader to say something really ominous to him, something all of us already know. So it was again, I'm not going to get too excited or too disappointed with a post-credit scene. It's just a post-credit scene. I'm just saying I didn't think it was very good. I thought it was a bit of a waste of time. I thought they could have done something a little bit more special, or just do something fun, right? Just do something fun in it. Something that doesn't have big narrative implications. Just do something fun. And I thought they could have done that. So yeah, I listen, again, I don't think the movie was terrible. I think there were terrible things about it. I also think it had some upside. So I get why there are people out there who thought the movie was okay. Because honestly, just a few things change. And I go from the movie was pretty disappointing to the movie was okay. If they just a few things were done better, my needle moves from here to here, not from here to here, but my needle moves from here, maybe over to here. So I get why there are people, probably many of you, that saw it and thought, hey, I thought the movie was all right. That's great. I totally understand why you feel that way. Unfortunately for me, the movie underwhelmed. It underdelivered. Bad script, bad direction, clunky story flow, breaking its own internal logic too many times, inconceivably stupid ideas from an apparently super genius supervillain. I just, and at the end of the day, the feeling I came out of Captain America Brave New World with more than anything else is, holy crap, Sam Wilson is an awesome Falcon, but he's not Captain America. And to be fair, nobody else in the MCU could be Captain America. I said this before, like before Endgame, I said, I know they seem to be either setting up Bucky or Sam to become the next Captain America. And I love Bucky and I love Sam, but neither of them can be Captain America. Sam is an awesome Falcon. Bucky is a great Winter Soldier. They're not Captain America. There's only one Captain America, Steve Rogers. John, in the comic books, we're talking about the movies, the MCU. And my big general impression coming out of the movie was, yeah, Bucky could not have become Captain America, and Sam didn't. Sam is a great Falcon. And yeah, that was just the overall impression I had by the end of it. Like, you can call him Captain America if you want, but he's not. Call him that all you want. Put the name on the movie poster, put the star on his chest, do all that kind of stuff. He's still Falcon. He still has the wings. He's still doing Falcon-y things. He's still Falcon. And you call him whatever you want, but he never once to me came across. And again, it's kind of unfair to him because I don't think there's anybody in the MCU that could have. That carries the, I hate using the word gravitas. Nobody in the MCU carries the gravitas that Steve Rogers did as Captain America. Now Captain America is a novelty. It's just a name you can throw around. Now you have the name. Now you have the name. Oh, Walmart Captain, you're Captain America now. Oh no, you didn't turn out to be very good. Okay, Sam, now you're Captain America now. Captain America is Steve Rogers. And you can't just replace him by giving somebody else the nickname. Anyway, you don't have to agree with me on that, and that's totally fine. But it's kind of how I feel about it. Anyway, guys, with all that down, let's get over now to hearing what you guys have to say. What do you guys think about this? How did you see the movie? How did you see the swing of it? How did you see the way it worked out, the way it didn't work out? Whatever you guys think, we're going to take it from you. So let's get over and start taking your questions now, shall we? We're going to start taking questions from Jake Kamara, who writes, I love that this was mostly Incredible Hulk Part 2. That is actually one of my problems with it, but whatever. That movie is so underrated. I totally agree. Cap versus Red Hulk was such a satisfying battle and really creative. I agree. I think the fight itself, despite the fact that almost everything that happened to Sam would have actually killed him, other than that, I actually really did like the fight sequence. I thought it was visually exciting and thrilling, and I really liked that part of the movie. I thought they did that part quite well. All right, next up. Daniel Rahimi writes, I, for one, thought Tim Blake Nelson was great and a top-tier villain. I disagree, but that's cool that you feel that way. Why is mustache-twirling villain considered a bad thing? Why is one-note character considered a bad thing? Ledger's Joker was one note. Oh, no, he was not. Ledger's Joker was complex and like a constant enigma. Wrong Batman character, John. Regardless, he was still an enigma. He was like this messed up ball of yarn thing of psychosis that you're always trying to figure out thing. He was not Heath Ledger's Joker was not a one-note villain. You don't have to have some good, some bad to not be one note. You can have complexity to him. Leader had no complexity. There was really nothing to it. And as it turns out, his plan was really stupid. His plan was dumb. For a guy who's supposed to be that smart, his plan was pretty dumb. So anyway, I have to disagree with you of any comparison to Heath Ledger's Joker, because I thought Heath Ledger's Joker was a massive complexity, a huge mass of complexity. Anyway, but that's just my thought, Daniel. Thanks for sharing yours. All right, next up. Andy writes, one of two. This film adds more to my concerns on the general audience's mediocrity fatigue to comic book movies on just the last 2 years, with few exceptions, and how this might affect the performance of future comic book movies. The good news for the MCU, by the way, the opening weekend box office just came out. Captain America, a little underperformed. They were projecting like 90 to 95 million, came in at 88. I still think that's a good result, and I think it shows that people are still interested in the MCU. At any rate, the good news for the MCU is they were in a better position right now to take a bump in the road than they have been in a long time. Because the MCU's been riding for the past 6 months this massive positive wave of energy. Everything from the announcement of Doomsday and Secret Wars, Robert Downey Jr. coming back to the MCU, all that kind of stuff. Then Deadpool and Wolverine comes out, becomes the highest grossing R-rated film in the history of cinema, making $1.3 billion, and everybody loved it. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been riding this really massive positive wave. And it's going to hit a little bit of a road bump with Captain America Brave New World, right? It's going to hit a little bit of a road bump with Captain America Brave New World. That's fine. The good news is, they're not going to have to sit around and wait to recover. We got Daredevil coming. We got Thunderbolts coming. We got Fantastic Four coming. I think the future of the immediate future of the MCU is very bright. I think it's getting very bright. I think Daredevil, Daredevil may be terrible. Thunderbolts may be terrible. Fantastic Four might be terrible. That's all possible. We'll find out. But I personally think all three are going to be great. And hopefully that'll counter any, negative momentum that maybe the mediocrity of Captain America Brave New World brings it. We'll see. All right. Next up, Tom Weinberg writes, movie felt like a Fantastic Four comic from the 1970s after Lee and Kirby left. A bland rehash of the classics. I liked Harrison Ford, though. Hey, listen, the performances of Harrison Ford. By the way, guys, I'm going to be turning off super chats in about 2 minutes. We're already like loaded with super chats. So if you have a super chat you want to get in, you've got about 30 seconds to do it. 30 seconds to get it in. But anyway, yeah, I didn't really mention that, did I? In my opening stuff, I thought that just the performance of Harrison Ford was very good. I don't necessarily think he was given the best material to work with, but I thought his performance was really good. You could tell he was having fun doing it. And listen, I don't care what anybody says. I think Anthony Mackie is a wonderful performer. I'm not saying he's top-notch Oscar level, but he's a great actor. I really like him a lot. And I always think his performances, particularly as Sam Wilson, are always really good. So I really liked his performance very much. I thought his performance was really good. So all of my issues that I have with Captain America Brave New World, I got to say, I don't think any of them revolve around the performances. Any of my criticisms revolve. I thought the performances were all pretty solid, particularly from Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie. But that's just me. All right. Next up. John Redcorn writes, for all the folks who criticize Sony for making Spider-Man less spin-offs, this film is basically a Hulk sequel without Hulk. Keep the same energy. And I don't think either are valid criticisms. I think Venom was a great movie. That first Venom movie, everybody said, you could never work without Spider-Man. Guess what? That movie made over $800 million and was delightful. I love that movie. I think you can do... Listen, the nice thing about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that, like, characters exist whether the heroes they're associated with are there or not, right? Characters exist whether or not the heroes they're mostly associated with are there or not. So I don't really have a problem with that. I was fine that we didn't have Bruce in this movie. I was fine that Hulk wasn't in this movie. I'm totally okay with that. I just don't think they should have made it feel so much like a sequel to that Hulk movie without Hulk. You can still have Leader. You can still have Thunderbolt Ross. You can still have Betty. But the story itself was just a continuation of that Hulk movie. That in that way, it did feel a little odd. All right. Eric Silva Gomez writes, didn't feel the same me, probably meant to me. Didn't feel the same to me without the original Ross and Edward Norton. Wouldn't have been saved, but it was one of my favorite movies as a kid. Yeah, but here's the reality, Eric. I think a lot of people who are watching this movie never saw that Hulk movie anyway. And I say that brokenheartedly because I'm in that movie. I really like that movie. Obviously, you couldn't have William Hurt. I mean, R.I.P. William Hurt, the great William Hurt. Obviously, he couldn't come back. And, I mean, they were never going to work with Edward Norton again. And so it was fine. I mean, that part didn't bother me so much. Look, if you just made a good movie around it, none of that would have bothered me at all, to be honest. All right. Fang Blaze writes, apart from the Indian Ocean battle, this movie felt like a made-for-TV movie to me. I agree. All the set pieces felt really small, visual effects were kind of bad, and hand-to-hand combat was extremely rough. I agree on all counts. Yeah. But I mean, I also liked a few other things in the movie than you did beyond just the Indian Ocean scenes. Again, the Hulk scene, the Bucky and Sam conversation I thought was beautiful. I love the Isaiah stuff. To me, there are highlights in this movie. I think there are solid things in this movie. It's just that for me, unfortunately, the negatives outweighed the positives. All right, by a bit. Tim R. writes, the reshoot scenes were so obvious it was bad. Yes and no. Here's the thing that I came away with. How bad was this movie before they did the reshoots? That was my first thought when I came out. Because I came out of the movie, again, I didn't hate this movie. I didn't come out hating it. It's just that I thought it was pretty disappointing. But I remember thinking to myself, my God, how bad was this movie before they did the reshoots, right? I'm totally going to operate on the assumption that they improved the movie with the reshoots. But I can only imagine how bad the movie must have been before they did the reshoots. But anything. All right. Cuss Cinema writes, personally, I loved it. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but I also can't think of anything that stood out as a major flaw either, if that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Listen, I just listed off about 40 things that I did think were major flaws, but this is the beautiful thing about movies. This is why movie fandom is the greatest thing in the world. Movies hit us all in different ways. And just because I didn't like it, Cuss Cinema, doesn't mean you shouldn't like it. If it hit you in a certain way that it didn't obviously hit me, and it made you enjoy it, that's a great thing. The fact that you can like a movie that I didn't like is not a bad thing about the movie fandom. It's one of the best things about movie fandoms. One of the best things about being a fan of movies is the fact that my friends may hate something, but I ended up liking it. Or this movie I hate, my friend got some joy out of it. That's one of the great things. And I'm not trying to tell any of you not to like the movie. I'm just giving you the statement about that I didn't particularly like the movie and why I didn't, but that doesn't mean you can't. And that's a beautiful thing and one of the best things about being a movie fan. Anyway, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Casinema. All right. Casinema also wrote, it was a small bit, but I love the part during the Celestial Island battle when Red Wing took the shield. It was so cool and creative. Yeah, I thought they did a number of pretty creative things in that entire action sequence. I think that sequence, the Hulk fight sequence, were two of the truly well put together things in this movie that I really, really liked. All right. Let's see. Next up, Fangblaze writes, I don't have a problem with them not using the usual MCU intro, but I wonder why they decided to cut it from this movie. Any idea why they did that? Irrelevant. Who cares? It has no impact on the movie, right or wrong. But yeah, they didn't do that. They didn't use it. Oh, well. So no. And here's the thing, Fangblaze. I don't think we should overthink it. I really don't. I mean, it didn't make the movie any better. It wouldn't have made the movie any worse. It just wasn't there. Why they didn't use it, I don't know. But I also don't think it's an important thing. So I don't think we should overthink that. All right. Next up, we got Amin, who writes, I enjoyed it. Honestly felt pre-MCU comic book film in a good way. It's a fun popcorn style movie to watch. Doesn't have to be that serious in my opinion. All right, let me challenge you on something though. I think you can be just a fun popcorn film and still have a level of excellence to it. I think there are movies that try to be fun popcorn films and fail. I think Captain America: Brave New World, I'm not going to say it failed, but it didn't succeed to me, in my opinion. But I don't think like this whole concept of just saying, well, I mean, it wasn't trying to be The Godfather, so it's good. No, it's okay. You can have movies that aren't trying to be The Godfather. They just meant to be fun, popcorn-like films. You know what a great example of that is? Mystery Men. I still think one of my favorite movies of all time. Probably in my top 20. Maybe just outside my top 20, but it'll be top 20 adjacent to me of one of my favorite movies ever. I love Mystery Men. There was no Shakespeare in that, despite the fact that you had a guy named Casanova Frankenstein. It was just meant to be fun, right? It just was meant to be a fun movie. And it did it with a degree of excellence. Not every movie has to be Civil War, but that doesn't excuse you from still needing to put in a degree of excellence in the film. And to me, it just failed to do that. Maybe to you it didn't, and that's fine. But yeah, I don't think we can just say, well, it's just meant to be a popcorn film. Well, you can still be a bad film and be a popcorn film, and you can have a good film that's a popcorn film. You know what I'm saying? And that's just kind of my thought on it. All right. Thanks, Amin. Next up, Amin also writes, my biggest issue is with the suit. Sam is literally Iron Panther Man. Yeah. It doesn't feel special anymore, and now the new Falcon is going to get it. Come on. This is one of as a huge MCU fan, you guys know I'm a big MCU fan. I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all that kind of stuff. But many of you guys know one of my big issues with the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now is everybody is Iron Man now. Everybody has an Iron Man suit. They started it with Spider-Man. It's like, Spider-Man's not cool. What do you mean Spider-Man's not cool? Nah, you know what the kids like? The kids like Iron Man. Let's give Spider-Man an Iron Man outfit. Only it'll look like a Spider-Man outfit, but it's an Iron Man outfit. And they make him Iron Man. And obviously War Machine. I mean, but you know, War Machine is an Iron Man thing. That's fine, whatever. So you got War Machine and you got Spider-Man. And then even the Dora Milaje. Once you get into Black Panther Wakanda Forever, even the Dora Milaje now have Iron Man suits. And Falcon is now basically with his own heads-up display. Oh, and everything's got to have vibranium tech. And yeah, he's not Captain America. You're right. He's Wakandan Iron Man. He's Wakanda. And then we got Ironheart coming out that's going to be Iron Man. Now we got Falcon is all about the suit. And Again, I don't want to go too negative on it, but that has been a running frustration of mine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I just, and listen, I love Spider-Man Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home. I love all those movies. But I do get frustrated that everybody's got to be Iron Man now. Everybody just has an Iron Man suit. They're all a little different. Falcon's has wings, but he's got the heads-up display. The only difference is that Falcon's suit doesn't have a built-in, but he does have a built-in AI, right? But instead of Jarvis, he's got, what was it? What's his little flying saucer called? Red Wing? Help me out in the live chat, guys. I know there's about a 20-second delay, but what is his name? Red Wing? Something like that? Anyway, so even he's got a built-in AI. Even he's got like a built-in AI assistant. And so, anyway, again, not a huge deal, okay? I'm just saying that has always been one of my little frustrations with the state of the MCU is that everybody's Iron Man. Okay, next up, The Sock writes, went with my wife on Valentine's Day, her idea. She really enjoyed it. It wasn't exactly everything I was hoping for, but I still had a good time. The fight in the leader's prison, though, woof. Oh, yeah, again, that's, to me, Sock, that was one of the ongoing themes, was that the hand-to-hand combat stuff throughout, like the opening scene in Mexico, that scene in the leader's top secret prison thing, that was rough. I mean, once Sam takes to the sky and is really Falcon, that's when the action hummed. Again, once he gets in the sky, the action just felt tight and exciting and creative, particularly over the Indian Ocean stuff. But man, when he was on his feet, I thought the action was pretty rough. Yeah, I agree with you, man. All right. See, Fangblaze71 writes, like Ironheart in Black Panther 2, I'm now less interested in Sidewinder as a possible show about him than I was before this movie. I agree. And this is Giancarlo frickin' Esposito we're talking about. Giancarlo frickin' Esposito. This man bleeds gold. He's a treasure. How can you give him this character and write in such a way that she becomes instantly disposable, made no sense, and felt frankly kind of weak? How can you do that to Giancarlo Esposito? Anyway, yeah, I'm with you. Like, you go into Civil War and we're introduced to T'Challa, and that made us all super excited for Black Panther. They try to replicate that formula by introducing us to Ironheart in Black Panther 2, but the opposite happened. It actually made me less interested in an Ironheart series. And now with Giancarlo Esposito, I'm actually less interested in this character than I was before watching this movie. Now, that might not have been the same effect on you, and that's cool if it didn't, but I'm just saying that was the effect it had on me, which is really a shame. Anyway, because it's Giancarlo freaking Esposito. All right. Murray Reich writes, I was not impressed by the new Temu Black Widow. We got Walmart Captain America, and then we got Temu Black Widow. Her English was so off. Well, wait, to be fair, Murray, she's a character who English isn't her first language, so that's fine. That's fine. Colossus's English isn't top-notch either, but we don't criticize his anyway. Her English was so off. Also, where was the president from Secret Invasion? Seems like the MCU is now utilizing the old Fox X-Men continuity schmontinuity. To be fair, I mean, I asked that question too when I came out. I was like, what's the lineage of the presidency now in the MCU? It's just like every time there's a new president. Anyway, to be fair, sometime maybe they're going to say in this timeline that Harrison Ford's Thunderbolt Ross defeated that president in their election and became president. I don't know. So whatever. I think the idea of another character who came out of the Red Room, who came out of the Widow Protocol, I think the idea, because there were many women who went through the Red Room, right? Natasha wasn't the only one. I think the idea of having a place for another one of those widow characters is a valid idea. And I liked the character in the movie. I just felt it was kind of needless. If that character is completely pulled out of the movie, I don't think the movie changes all that much. It just wasn't that, they didn't make the character essential. You know what I mean? So I'm just not, so I was fine with the character. I'm very neutral on the character. I was perfectly fine with the character. There was just no purpose for her to be there. There was really no function for her to be there. Anyway, that was just kind of my input anyway. All right, Murray also writes, better than Ant-Man 3, I agree, but still lackluster. Betty looked deep fake. Post-credit was a waste, I agree. The audience I was in booed after the scene ended. We waited for that? That movie sucked. Yikes. Well, I mean, here's the thing I'll say about movie audience reactions. Every movie theater will have its own energy. You can be in one movie theater where people booed at the end, but guess what? Another movie theater of people up the street may have watched the same movie and there could have been cheers at the end, right? Every movie theater has its own dynamic. I know the movie theater I was in, I didn't hear anybody booing, but it was, like Ray was pointing out, it was kind of quiet. Like when the movie ended, it was just kind of quiet. No cheering, no booing. But I'm sure there were movie theaters where people clapped and cheered. I mean, again, every movie theater has its own kind of energy. All right. Next up. Sigalicious writes, I like that name. Writes, hey, John, hope you're doing all right. I am doing all right. Thank you. Personally, I enjoyed Cap 4, but didn't love it. Also, the editing and music. Did you get a campy Jason vibe? I did. I kind of did. Anyways, thanks for all you do. Listen, and I'm not far from you. For those of you out there who are saying, I didn't love it, but I thought the movie was okay. I'm actually not far from where you guys are. Like I said a little bit earlier, like if this is totally neutral in the movie, this is hated it, this is loved it, I'm kind of here, right? I'm kind of here that I ended up being disappointed with it. I didn't think it was very good. I'm not that far away from just being here where I kind of thought it was okay. Like if they just done a few things better, just a couple of key things better, I think I would have landed on the, I didn't love it, but I thought it was okay. Unfortunately, I didn't, but I'm glad you did. Yes, this was not the best music in a Marvel Cinematic Universe film that I've heard. And again, I did think the editing was a bit clunky. I think some of the basic foundations of the film, I thought the script was poor. I thought the direction was badly done. And I thought the editing wasn't particularly sharp. Then again, I thought the editing in the scene over the Indian Ocean, the Hulk fight scene were really, really good. But overall, yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp as you. I think I'm in the same camp as you on that one. All right. Next up, we've got Matt C., who sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Matt C., for supporting us on that level, man. And Matt C. writes, I think Sam's likability is what makes this a good movie, but it has big problems. Really strange casting because, I don't know, I know Ford was good, but he can't do this much longer at his age. Wish we could have seen William Hurt take on Red Hulk. Oh, listen, I think everybody, including Harrison Ford, and thank you again, Matt, for supporting us on that level. I think everybody, including Harrison Ford, wishes William Hurt was still around to continue to play this character. I think we all wish that. And why they felt like they could recast Thunderbolt Ross, but they couldn't recast T'Challa is completely beyond me. But I think everybody wishes William Hurt was still here to play the role. But I don't know. I mean, listen, Harrison Ford, I think, is doing right now today some of the best acting of his career. You guys have heard me talk about the show he does on Apple called Shrinking. He's the best work he's done in like 15 years. He's so good. And I thought he did very good in this role. I have my issues with the film, but I certainly don't think the performance of Harrison Ford or Anthony Mackie took away from the movie at all. If anything, and I think you're right. One of the strongest things this movie has going for it, even though it's really more Falcon feeling than Captain America feeling, is Sam Wilson's just a really good character, man. And Anthony Mackie plays Sam Wilson so well. I've loved him ever since he first popped up in Captain America. I think it was Winter Soldier, when he's just jogging around, like, and Cap's coming up, on your left. No, you don't. Like, he's just, there's a charm and a charisma to this character that is just so palatable that I love it. I love him. I think he's great in it. And I thought Harrison Ford did a really good job, even though, again, I agree, all of us wish William Hurt was still here to play the role. So there's that. All right. Thanks for that, Matt. Appreciate it, man. Mary Beth writes, I really liked the film and had a good time. I'm glad you did. What do you think about the conversation between Bucky and Sam about what it means to carry the shield? Okay. I personally really like that scene, but the strength of the scene wasn't anything profound about what it means to carry the shield. I just thought it was, and movies need this. All movies need moments like this. I thought it was just a really great, much needed in that moment, human connection kind of scene. That's what I really felt was the strength of that scene. Revisiting the connection these two characters have, that the one character is at a low because Sam sees Joaquin in the hospital, doesn't know if he's going to make it, and he needs somebody to come in to give him words of inspiration and that kind of stuff. And I thought a lot of good movies need scenes like this, and I thought that was one of the particularly strong scenes in the movie. I didn't walk away from it with the big impressions of what it means to carry the shield so much as I did as a great human moment of the connection between characters. And I thought it was great on that level, and I really enjoyed it. And it perfectly set up the best line in the movie later on when he says, I should have taken the serum, Bucky's full of shit. It's that scene set, if for no other reason, that scene was great because it set up the best line of the movie. All right. Thanks for that, Mary Beth. Next up, Matt C writes, also, does anybody else want an Isaiah Bradley series now? Just me? Man, him and Steve could have been unstoppable working together. Oh my God, Isaiah and Steve working together. Hope we see him again. Red Hulk 2, although they better hurry up. I said this a little bit earlier. I don't think you do an Isaiah standalone show or an Isaiah standalone movie, but as a more prominent, because he was like a 5th, 6th level character in this movie. Put him in another show or movie where he's a 3rd or a 4th, right? He doesn't have to be a number 1 or a number 2, but you put him, he's a fabulous supporting character, and I want to see more of him. I really do. Especially since he's one of the few people, like if Anthony just straight up fights Isaiah is going to kill him. Isaiah's going to tear him to pieces. But I don't think it needs to be a 1 or 2 necessarily, but I would love to see more of him. Because again, I thought he stole the movie. Frankly, I thought he was the best thing in the movie. I really did. All right. Let's see. Mary Beth writes, I thought it was beautiful that Sam got to hear from Joaquin how he wanted to follow in Sam's shoes, like Sam took over for Steve. Yeah, again, I was taken out of that scene because you're making this kid an Avenger? Is that how far the Avengers have fallen? Hey, you know what, kid? You're a good kid and you got heart. You're an Avenger. Anyway, that kind of took me out of it. But before that happened, I agree. I thought it was a really nice scene. Kind of like the Sam and Bucky scene, right? These movies need to have moments of heart. To really flesh out a movie and to make it good, you got to have these moments of heart, like true human connection and true human heart. And I thought the Bucky and Sam scene did that very well. And I thought, until the whole Avengers part, I thought that scene was also very good for that. I thought that was a great connection between these two characters. They have a good chemistry, and I thought it was a really nice moment in the movie. I did. All right. Next up, we've got Matt C, who writes, so nice to have a Hulk that feels like an actual threat. I think we have to accept Banner's nuts got dusted with Thanos. Red Hulk, an Avenger maybe? No. Ross is in prison. He may have killed a bunch of people, wrecked the White House. They're not making that Hulk an Avenger. Also, I think Bruce's, while he's been neutered, I think Bruce's Hulk also probably rips this Red Hulk apart in seconds. So I don't think that. But I agree, it was nice for the first time to see a Hulk actually kind of acting like a Hulk a little bit, right? It was good to see that. I did enjoy that. Let's see. Next up, Johnny Weiner writes, like Cap new suit, part Falcon, part Black Panther, part Iron Man. The problem is all that takes away from who he is, right? It all takes away from it. Sam's just a good soldier with Iron Man and Wakandan technology. And although, I mean, I gotta say, they used that to great effect in the fight with the Hulk. I mean, it really felt pretty cool. It felt pretty great. But again, to me, Johnny, it's the Iron Manification of the MCU. Everything's got to be an Iron Man outfit. And now vibranium. And soon adamantium. But we'll see. All right. Next up, Johnny Weiner also writes, I really enjoyed the movie. Red Hulk was badass and terrifying. I agree. Only wish is that they could have kept the Serpent Society in the film or last Captain America. Listen, to be honest, the Serpent Society is kind of an obscure thing. And most average moviegoers never even heard of them before. And I think there's even a lot of comic readers who don't know that much about them. For those of you who don't know, Captain America Civil War was going to be called Captain America and the Serpent Society. They changed that. I thought it was good that they did. I didn't feel like the medicine to cure this movie was more Serpent Society. If anything, I didn't think they treated this movie made me less interested in Serpent Society. But we'll see if they got plans for them moving on. Obviously, they kept Giancarlo's character alive for a purpose, so we'll see what they do. Let's see. Fangblaze writes, my favorite moment of the movie was probably Sam and Bucky's conversation. I did like that moment a lot. Even as somebody who didn't like the movie particularly, I thought that was a very good scene. For a short moment, it had a lot of heart to it. That's exactly what I've been saying, right? You got to have moments of true human connection heart. And I thought that was really a great shining moment. That and the conversation with Joaquin at the end, I thought was really good. All right. Noah writes, I absolutely loved this movie, but the redesign of Leader was questionable. The Red Hulk fight was so fun to watch. I agree with that. I hope we see more of him. You know, it's funny because I did not love this movie, but I'm going to disagree with the design of the Leader. I thought you just can't make Leader on a live action screen look the way he does in the comic book. It just would have felt ridiculous. So you've got to take a fresh approach to his design, understanding what has happened to characters in the movies before. I honestly didn't think it was that bad. And I say this as somebody who didn't love the movie. I honestly thought you had to redesign. You 100% had to redesign. And I think having to redesign, I didn't think they did a bad job redesigning it, to be honest. But that's just me. That's just my interpretation of it. All right. Next up. Isaiah B. Somebody in the live chat just said this. I love this. Ren V or Ren 6 says Serpent Society sounds like a Riverdale gang. It absolutely does sound like a Riverdale gang. You're 100% on that. Anyway, Isaac Beebe writes, I actually really enjoyed this movie, but man, I am really sad that William Hurt never got the chance to play the Red Hulk part of the Thaddeus Ross character. That being said, Harrison Ford was awesome. Again, with whatever issues I have with the movie and the characters, actually none of them come from the performances. I thought Harrison was really good. I thought Anthony Mackie has always delivered. I think they did with their performances the best they could to elevate the movie. It's just that the movie had so many inherent flaws, even they couldn't do. But I thought Harrison was great. And, you know, again, all of us wish that William Hurt was still here to play it. But if it can't be William Hurt, man, they did a good job going out to get Harrison Ford. Let's see. Next up. Isaac writes, since you never brought it up in your review, what did you think of Giancarlo Esposito as Sidewinder, and does it increase your excitement for this supposed Disney Plus show about the Serpent Society? I kind of covered this before. First of all, I think Giancarlo was Giancarlo. He's great. You give him any material, he'll do it as good as it can be done. But I agree with some of our other viewers. I think his presence in this movie and what they had and his function in this movie actually made me less interested. Like if you had just told me, didn't have him in this movie, just said Giancarlo Esposito is going to be leading a new Disney Plus show about Serpent Society, I would have been, okay, all right, I smell what you're cooking. This movie killed that for me. Not totally killed it dead, but it took away a lot of it for me. So I don't know. We'll see if it ever actually, I doubt it'll actually happen, but we'll see if it does. All right. Utopia writes, this movie scratched a couple of itches I had, finally addressing Tiamat, Samuel Stearns, the leader returning, adamantium. Yeah, I mean, there were elements that they put in it that is good that they put in it, right? Finally address adamantium. Finally address what happened to the leader. Finally address Tiamat coming out of the ocean. But you still have to build a good movie around it, right? I think it was a good idea to have all those things addressed. These were all kind of some hanging threads in the MCU. You didn't have to address them, but it's good that they did. But that just having them there doesn't in and of itself make the movie good. You still have to build a good movie around it. And while I think it's a good thing that they put that stuff in, I didn't think it necessarily made the movie any good. Anyway, Utopia also writes, I think it's better than the Marvels. I disagree. Love and Thunder, it's close. Quantumania, absolutely. And a more compelling story than Multiverse of Madness. No. I'm going to disagree with you totally on that. Like Multiverse of Madness had its flaws, but the underlying basic story of Multiverse of Madness was a far more compelling story. Far more compelling story. Like not even close. Infinitely more compelling story. The whole idea about, again, I think the story, the character arc of Scarlet Witch in the MCU is either the best or tied with the best or just behind the character arc of Tony Stark. The fact that of where we first met her, becoming a hero, and then the loss and the pain, and then ultimately becoming a villain as a result of the loss and pain and all that kind of stuff. And then her desperate attempt to go through it, to rip her way through the multiverse, to try to find another version of her children. The underlying story of Multiverse of Madness is infinitely better than the underlying story in Captain America: Brave New World. Like it's not even close in my opinion. Just my opinion, but in my opinion, not even close. And I don't think Captain America: Brave New World is the worst MCU movie, but it's near the bottom. Like I think, ask me again in a few weeks once I've had more time to marinate on it. Okay, so don't hold me to this. But right now I would say there are a few MCU movies that were worse. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Absolutely. I think Captain America: Brave New World is better than that. I think Captain America: Brave New World is better than Iron Man 2. I think it's better than Thor 2: The Dark World. I'm not sure there's many more that it's better. I actually think The Marvels is a better film than Captain America: Brave New World. Yeah, I honestly didn't think The Marvels was that half bad of a movie. I didn't think it was a particularly good movie, but I thought it was pretty okay. Yeah. I'd have to think about it, but I think it's definitely better than those three MCU movies. I'm not sure if there's another one that I think it's better than. I think it might be right on par with Thor: Love and Thunder, although Thor: Love and Thunder was more silly. Anyway, it's an interesting, again, I give me more time to really let it sink in and marinate on it more though. All right. Bill's HQ writes, overall disappointed in the film. I will say one thing I love was having a Savage Hulk back. I agree with you, man. More Savage Hulk, less smart Hulk. Yeah. Like I don't mind a focused Hulk, like really more of like the Hulk that we got in, Avengers Age of Ultron, where it's like he's still a wild card. You can't completely control him, but you can point that Hulk in the right direction, right? Like, he's not just going around killing everything. Like, he's focused. He knows who his allies are, but he's still, like, to use a Viking term, he's still a berserker, right? But yeah, I've never been a big fan of Professor Hulk, man. I got to admit, I really am not. All right, Amin writes, it was so nice seeing a real Hulk after so long. Wrecking shop, thunderclaps, huge leaps. Also, I thought Betty would show up at the end to calm Hulk. I mean, that's absolutely what they should have done. Again, considering the fact that this movie 5,000 times, in case you didn't hear it the first 3,000 times, they went over so hard of Ross. Oh, my daughter doesn't forgive me. Oh, Thunderbolt Ross's daughter has not talked to him in years. I bet you wish your daughter Betty will never forgive you now. I do everything for Betty. Oh, hey, stupid audience, do you get it yet? That Betty's really important to Thunderbolt Ross. I mean, they hit us over the head with it so many fucking times. Anyway, you would think that would have some kind of payoff. And really, admittedly, the kind of predictable thing to do, but the thing that made more sense to do was that Betty shows up and she's the one to talk him down. That was the thing that would have made way more sense rather than Cap, who Ross doesn't even like and is certainly not important to him, is the one to be able to talk him down. That was a bad decision. Anyway, Amin writes, I thought Stern's plan could have ended up being very convoluted, but thankfully it felt straightforward. His motives made sense, and overall it worked. Did not work, in my opinion. Now, I will agree that his motivations absolutely rock solid made sense, right? Like, you made me do this, promising me freedom, and instead you left me in here to rot, and now I want revenge on you. Straightforward, makes sense. Sometimes a villain's motivations don't really make sense. This one did. I have no problem with that part of it because you're right. His motivations did make sense. But for a super genius, man, he was stupid. He was really dumb. Like infinitely dumb. His plans had 1,000,000 points of failure. Didn't take all that much. Like, what does pitch meeting would say? Like, man, leader's plan sounds like they'll never be able to stop that. Actually, it'd be really simple. Barely an inconvenience. That's really, and so because of how impotent, like really that's at the end of the day, leader came across to me as being just impotent. His plan was dumb, filled with 1,000,000 points of failures. And ultimately his plan he was pretty much beaten pretty easily. Like the overall thrust of what his plan was. And there was 1,000,000 things they could have done, that leader could have done, that would have achieved his goal much quicker and much better. Anyway, it's just me. All right. Next up, we got Jack Fern writes, John, what do you think about the Ruth Bat Seraph character? I really enjoyed her. Again, I thought she was good, if we're talking about the Widow character, right? I like the character. I thought she could be interesting. She was just pointless in the movie. Like I at the end of the day, there really wasn't much point to her. They had her character do a few things that any number of unnamed characters could have done. There just wasn't a place for her in the movie. I'll look forward to seeing her again. I just didn't think there was that much call for her to be in this movie. But anyway, that's just me. All right. Jack Fern also writes, do you think it was a mistake to not have Sharon Carter appear in this movie? Why would Sharon Carter be in this movie? Where do you think she will show up next? If Iron Wars ever happens, that's where she'll show up next. I think the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, with her whole reveal and everything, I think Iron Wars is the place for her to show up next. I really don't see what the logic would have been. There's nothing about the story in this movie that remotely suggested that Carter should have been in it. So I'm not quite sure what your connection there is, but No, I definitely don't think it was a mistake not to have her in the film. I don't think it would have been a mistake to put her in the film, but I don't at all think it was a mistake to not have her in the film. All right, guys, listen. We've been going for about almost an hour and a half. We're going to take a quick moment here, just a little bit of a break, give you guys a chance to talk amongst yourselves, have a little bit of a drink, make a bathroom run if you want. And we're going to thank a couple of sponsors of today's broadcast of our open spoiler discussion of Captain America Brave New World from our friends at Prize Picks and NordVPN. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Prize Picks. All right, sports fans, All-Star Weekend is almost here, and if you're not on Prize Picks, you're seriously missing out. It's the easiest and most fun way to turn your basketball knowledge into real money. With over 10 million users already playing, why not you? Prize Picks is a skill-based daily fantasy game. You just pick more or less on player projections. You think Steph Curry's hitting more than 5 threes or Giannis dropping more than 35 points? Make your picks in under 60 seconds, and if you hit, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Ann and I have been using Prize Picks on football all year, but now we're switching over to basketball, and we like Jason Tatum getting more than 29 points. And now that Luka Doncic is on the Lakers, I'm going to take over on 8 assists. And the best part is, even if you miss one pick, Prize Picks Flex Play lets you still cash out. And hey, don't forget about Taco Tuesday. Each week, Prize Picks discounts select player projections by up to 25%, giving you even more chances to score big. Download the app today and use the code CAMPEA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use that code CAMPEA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. All right, let's be real. There's nothing worse than wanting to stream your favorite show or watch a live game only to find out it's blocked in your country. But guess what? With NordVPN, that is never a problem. With just one click, you can switch your virtual location and access content from anywhere in the world. I have loved using NordVPN. Whether I'm traveling and using public Wi-Fi or just shopping online, NordVPN keeps my personal info safe and private. By switching my location, I can even save money on flights, hotels, and subscriptions. It's like a cheat code for getting the best deals. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, so there's no buffering when I'm streaming. Plus, their threat protection feature blocks malware, trackers, and phishing attempts, keeping my devices safe 24/7. And with just one account, I can protect up to 10 devices, so my whole setup is covered. So to get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/John Campea, and our link will even give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Links in the description. Check it out now. And thank you to our friends at Prize Picks and NordVPN for sponsoring today's broadcast of our Captain America Brave New World open spoiler discussion. All right, guys, with that down, let's get through the rest of the questions here that you guys have sent in, shall we? We're going to pick things up with Fangblaze, who writes, I really wish Sam got more of a character arc than just the serum thing again. I want to like him as much as I did Steve, but he's nowhere near him at the moment. To be fair, Fangblaze, with Tony gone as well, there's really nobody in the MCU that can be that. I mean, they were the two, Tony and Steve were the two most prominent, character-driven, heart, soul of the MCU characters there were. And I don't know that there's anybody that can really just replace that. I still think Sam is an infinitely likable character. He's got a lot of charisma. I love seeing him on screen. He's a great character. You're right, though. There wasn't much of a story arc for him as far as his character journey goes. One of the great things they always did with Tony is Tony was always facing a new chapter of a different, character development, character arc kind of thing that he faced every time. Same thing with Steve. And they didn't really give Sam that in this one. It seems like the big thing was, hey, should I put together the Avengers? And then at the end goes, let's put together the Avengers. And that seemed to be it. Because you're right. We already saw him struggle with the serum thing, like all that kind of stuff. So I think you're right. That is one area of improvement they probably could have had in the movie. All right. Piero writes, I like how they tied up loose stories, packed theater in Sweden, and the applause showed the audience enjoyed it, unaffected by the online fandom. Well, I would say, remember I said this a little bit earlier when somebody wrote in and said, my audience booed. And I said, every movie theater is different, right? I said, just because your audience booed doesn't mean other audiences booed. Like my audience was awkwardly quiet after the movie. No booing, no cheering. Your audience, there was cheering. Great. I'm sure Thor, actually, I can tell you for a fact that Thor Love and Thunder, the theater I saw it in, the audience cheered and applauded when it was done. I mean, every movie theater is different. It doesn't mean anything positively or negatively about how everybody else in the world feels about it. But it's good. Like it's always good to be in a good high energy movie theater where you can have that kind of energy. Let's see. Next up. Piero writes again, Steve is Cap, but Sam does fine. Facing a Hulk tested him. No strength, just his skills, helping PTSD vets. That's why the loose threads worked for me. I think you're onto something there. I mean, I did like the idea of them deciding to address loose threads. Again, that doesn't make your movie good. You still got to build a good movie around it. And I think they struggled at doing that. Having Sam face a real test like a Red Hulk is actually a good idea. Having him face like somebody that the audience can see, this is a true threat. I think that's a good idea. I think it is weird though, that he came almost as close to losing against the big guy in the church that he fought earlier who had no superpowers as he did to almost losing to Red Hulk. That was a little bit weird. And again, I mentioned this earlier. It drives me crazy. And this isn't just a Captain America thing. This is a lot of comic book movies do this. And it always drives me nuts where it's like, okay, that's cool that the shield didn't break, but his body would have broken as a result of that. You know, that there were 15 things that happened to Sam in this movie that easily would have killed him and easily should have killed him, but they didn't. I think they should have choreographed better action to make it look believable that why he would survive this or that. And listen, I am with you in the sense that Steve is Cap. If you're going to ask Sam to take on the nickname of Captain America, I think he's doing about as well as you can. I thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier, while I didn't love the show, I thought it was pretty solid. And I thought one of the things that they did well was show us the transition of Sam accepting the mantle of Captain America. And again, to me, Steve is still Cap. But if you're going to try to get somebody else to do it, Sam does it just about as well as anybody else would have. Probably better than anybody else would have. Like, again, Bucky is the other option, but I think he does just as well as Bucky would have done or better than Bucky would have done. So yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from on that. All right, next up. Never Lose Your Nerd writes, I really enjoyed the movie and I don't get the hate. I'm not getting a lot of hate from it. Honestly, I feel like 90% of the people who see this movie are neither here nor here. They're really close to here. I feel like 90% of the people who see this movie are, I just didn't like it. I didn't think it was very good. Or, I thought it was okay. I see very, very few people saying, this is the worst movie ever. And very, very few people saying, this is the best movie ever. Usually it's like between those two extremes. But I'm finding like 90% of the people are like in this very small little range of, I was kind of let down by it. Or, I kind of thought it was okay, right? I'm honestly not seeing a lot of hate for the movie, but that's just me. All right. Next up, You Know My Name writes, the soundtrack was a letdown for me. I agree. I didn't think the sound... I'll say this. I didn't think the soundtrack was a particularly strong element for the movie. Let me say that. For me, and it didn't suit the film. The story could have been done without the leader for the better. But I enjoyed it. 7.3 out of 5, 7.3 out of 10. Again, I don't really, that doesn't mean anything to me because the reason I stopped giving number scores is because numbers means different things to different people. Like, some of you heard me say this before. I see a movie that I thought was pretty solid, like a pretty solid movie, and I would give it a 7 out of 10. And then people would come back at me and go, why did you hate it? I didn't hate it. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Why didn't you give it a 10? Why didn't you give it a 9.5? That means you hate it. If you gave it a 7, that means you hate it. So like a number of years ago, I stopped giving numerical scores to movies because the number would mean different things to different people. And so if nobody knows how to interpret a number, what's the point? So you tell me 7.3 out of 10, but I don't know what that means to you. I know what it would mean for me if I gave something a 7.3 out of 10, and I certainly did not think Captain America Brave New World was a 7.3 out of 10, but that's just me. So that's one of the reasons why I stopped giving numerical scores. All right. Next up. Let's see. Frame by frame entertainment rights. The directing is atrocious. Julius Ona was the director of the Cloverfield Paradox. I don't understand why you give him this job. All right. Here is a huge fallacy. Every director, except for maybe right now, Christopher Nolan, and that depends on your opinion. Every director's got a bad film in their resume. Every director does. Cloverfield Paradox was a bad movie, right? Cloverfield Paradox was a bad movie. But Ona doesn't have a long string of bad movies, right? Everybody's got Steven Spielberg, the greatest filmmaker of all time, has a couple of bad movies on his very long resume. But like by your logic though, you know what feature film the Russo brothers directed before they did Captain America Winter Soldier? He did You, Me, and Dupree. That's what the Russo brothers did. The Russo brothers did You, Me, and Dupree. That movie fucking sucks. But it's one movie, right? It was one movie. Do we think, oh my God, Kevin Feige never should have gotten the Russo brothers. They did You, Me, and Dupree. Well, yeah, but you know, everybody, almost every director has, if they're around long enough, will have a bad movie. Again, even the greatest of all time, Spielberg, has a couple of bad movies. He's done like 70 movies, so it's going to take a while, but it's going to happen. So if you are looking for a director for your movie, and you go out and say, I'm only going to hire a director who's never directed a bad film. And I agree, Cloverfield Paradox is bad. But if your whole philosophy is, I'm going to only hire a director that's never directed a bad movie, you're either A, going to hire a director who's got almost no experience, or B, man, you'll be lucky to get either Christopher Nolan or Denis Villeneuve. Because even Quentin Tarantino did Death Proof. I love Quentin Tarantino. You guys know I love Quentin Tarantino. But come on. He did Death Proof. That was bad. Didn't particularly love Hateful Eight either. But Hateful Eight wasn't that bad. But you're not going to be able to hire anybody. If your mandate is, I'm only going to hire a director who's never done a single bad movie, then you're going to be pretty limited. So I have no problem with the fact that they went out and got Julius Ona to do this movie. Yes, he did Cloverfield Paradox, but that was years ago. Everybody's got a bad day at the office, whatever. But he didn't do a good job directing this movie either, right? So, but that's different. That's hindsight now. I don't think it was a mistake to hire him, but he didn't do a very good job. Otherwise, you got to say it was a mistake that Kevin Feige hired the Russo brothers to do Winter Soldier. And clearly that worked out okay. So yeah, I don't think you can narrow it down that much. Anyway, that's just me though, frame by frame. All right, next up. Sonic 2000 writes, I actually found Ross's story to be the most compelling part of the movie. I think the buildup would have worked better if we didn't know about Red Hulk going into the film. Made sense for the marketing though. You know what? That is a huge issue, Sonic. This is a huge issue. A lot of people, understandably so, especially since Red Hulk doesn't show up until late in the third act of the film, right? A lot of people have argued, man, I wish they didn't show Red Hulk in the trailers. That's something that should have been saved. It's something that we should have been able to guess at watching the movie and not told at in the trailers. And I understand that philosophy, but as you yourself pointed out, marketing department's got to sell the movie. The marketing department has to sell the movie. And there wasn't much to sell. There really wasn't much to sell. The biggest thing they had going for them, which is why like Hulk is featured. Look at that. Like even in this post that they did, like Hulk is so featured. Red Hulk is so featured in this. It was the one big selling point. They had to excite the audience. So in a perfect world, do we go into Captain America Brave New World not truly knowing if Red Hulk shows up or not? Sure, I agree. But was it also an absolute necessity for them to include Red Hulk in the marketing to get anybody out to go see it? I think the answer to that is yes. And to be honest with you, it didn't really take anything away from me in the movie. Like, I knew Red Hulk was coming because of the marketing, but guess what? The fight between Red Hulk and Falcon is still probably my favorite part of the movie. So it didn't take anything away from it. Again, in an ideal world, you don't give away third act reveals in your trailers. But in this situation, I get why they did it. And to be quite honest, for me, Sonic, it didn't really take anything away from me. But I totally get the spirit of what you're saying. And I agree with the spirit of what you're saying. All right. Gifts by Disney writes, I've seen it twice now, enjoyed it both times. I know Red Hulk isn't Green Hulk, but how did Sam catch the flagpole on top of the White House, but couldn't fly away when Hulk ripped his wing off at the end? How did he? I don't remember the exact sequence of the order, like how everything transpired. Like, he couldn't fly away at the end because his wing got ripped off, but how was he able to catch the flagpole? I remember him hitting somebody with a flagpole, but I don't remember exactly what happened with the flagpole. Like, I remember the flagpole, but I can't remember exactly what happened with it. Anyway, if I did, I would say good question. But I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Good question though. All right. Next up, Christopher, guys in the live chat, if you know what he's talking about specifically in the scene, have a discussion in there. Like, talk about why you think that happened. All right. Christopher Liverman writes, would it have made more sense to let Isaiah help fight Red Hulk? Absolutely. Since he took the serum? Absolutely. Plus, he had beef with Ross? Absolutely. You know what? I'm glad you said it, because I haven't said that. 100%. 100%. Isaiah should have been part of fighting that Red Hulk. Narratively, it makes sense. It has dramatic purpose because of the anger that Isaiah feels not just towards Ross for putting him in jail, but also towards the government for putting him in jail for all those years. It narratively would have had all the juice to have Isaiah in that fight with Sam against Red Hulk. 100%. You want to know why they didn't? Because they wanted Sam to look good. It almost feels to me, and I understand this, but I disagree with it, but I understand it, that the whole purpose of this movie was really to try to get the audience to buy into Sam as Captain America. It felt like that was the whole purpose of the movie. It wasn't, we've got a great idea for a movie, let's make this great story. It feels like, and I might be wrong, I'm just saying it feels like it was the idea of, listen guys, we need to make a movie that really gets Sam over as the new Captain America. And so when it's coming up against fighting the Hulk, well, you don't want to have Isaiah in there. It's got to be all Sam. Sam's got to be the one to do it. And I kind of get that. But I think you are 100% right, Christopher. Having Isaiah as a truly super character with dramatic purpose and narrative tie-ins to the battle against Red Hulk would have been a much, much wiser decision. But instead, they thought it was more important that they really make Sam shine, so they had Sam do it alone. And again, I love this scene. I love the Falcon versus Red Hulk sequence. I thought that scene was the best part of the movie. But it would have made more sense if Isaiah was a part of it. You're 100% right. All right, Mr. I writes, hanging out with ya on my 46th birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. I. There is one question I have after watching the movie. Who informed the world that Tiamat is a celestial? Well, you know what? This comes up every once in a while. this comes up every once in a while in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Wait a minute. How does the world know what the Avengers did at this? Wait a minute. How is it common knowledge that this happened from this scene in this movie? I think we just have to accept at some point there are intelligence agencies that are able to find this stuff out, right? They found out what happened. And they're able, like somebody told somebody who told somebody who told somebody. We don't need to see how all that comes about in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. But, you know, intelligence agencies find out. The big spy network that Samuel L. Jackson set up, you know, Nick Fury's stuff that he set up would have found a way to find out. So that to me, Mr. I, to be honest with you, is not one of the bigger questions for me in the movie. By the way, happy birthday again. I hope you have a fabulous day and a great year. Birthday year, man. All right. Next up, we've got Joel, who writes, I left the theater with the feeling this film got slaughtered on the editing room floor and there was 20 to 25 minutes missing. I want the Snyder cut. You know what? Here's the funny thing, Joel. I walked out of the theater with the complete opposite feeling. I walked out of the theater feeling this was what they were able to salvage. See, I walked out of the theater with the feeling that, man, this movie must have been really bad before, and they were able to salvage it to this point. Like, I think they probably took it from terrible. And again, I might be wrong about this. This is just what I felt coming out of the theater, that this movie probably went from absolutely terrible to just kind of disappointing. So you had the feeling walking out that it got butchered in the editing and maybe the reshooting. I walked out of it with the complete opposite feeling. It's like, I feel like they salvaged this movie as much as they could. That's the feeling I had. But it's really interesting that we both walked out of the same movie and kind of had that opposite reaction there. All right. Next up, The Incredible Hulk writes, Ross has never once been called Thunderbolt in the MCU. Is that important or relevant? It's an if true, and I don't know that you're correct, but you might be. And if you are correct, that's an interesting little piece of trivia. Like, in which MCU movie was Thaddeus Ross referred to as Thunderbolt? Answer, never. That's an interesting bit of trivia, if true. Again, I don't know that it's true. But how is that? I don't know if that's remotely relevant, though. Some people are saying in the live chat, actually, that's not true. Okay, well, I don't know off the top of my head if it is or if it isn't. But if it is true, that is an interesting little piece of trivia. All right, next up. We've got Chris Herman writes, post-credit scene felt written by ChatGPT. I agree. Listen, all the dialogue in the whole movie I thought was bad. Even in the good scenes, I thought the dialogue should have been much better. But yeah, I agree. That final scene, man, was just a bit of a waste, Chris. John Redcorn writes, saw it twice, liked it less the second time. Not good, but at least it was better than Marvel's and Quantumania. But that's not saying much. Do better, Marvel. Again, I disagree. I mean, yes, I do think it was better than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I will defend the Marvels. I don't think the Marvels is a particularly good movie, but it was more, I thought there was more positives to it than negatives. I liked the Marvels. I never went back to watch it a second time. But I remember, well, you know, I did watch it a second time on TV at home, but I mildly enjoyed the Marvels. Again, there was some big negatives in it, but unlike Captain America 4, where I thought the negatives outweighed the positives, with the Marvels, I felt the positives slightly outweighed the negatives. Whatever. But we are all in agreement that it was better than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. On that, we are all seem to be in agreement. All right. Thanks for that, John Redcorn. Next up, Tevin writes, hey, John, the Isaiah scene when Sam came to visit him in prison was great. I could feel his emotion coming through the screen and felt bad for him. Again, one of the reasons I felt like Isaiah was the MVP of the movie. I'm not taking anything away from Harrison Ford's performance or Anthony Mackie's performance. I'm saying the character Isaiah was great. I have no issues at any point in this movie with the Isaiah character. I thought the character was really good. I thought the character was great. And that scene, really good scene. That was a good scene as well. I agree with you on that. Let's see. Next up, Andrew Sealer writes, John, are the MCU shows being a required viewing hurting the MCU movies? Yes. Yes. I also think there's a lot of the audience is not going to get the full impact of this movie because they never saw the Hulk movie. So this is a movie that both relies on some pre-existing knowledge of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which not everybody watched, and that Incredible Hulk movie, which not everybody watched. Do I think it's a kill shot to the MCU to make some of its previous stuff pre-required viewing? No, I don't think it's a kill shot. I think it hurts. It hurts, but it doesn't kill it. You know what I mean? But I see them getting more and more into that. I'm getting more and more into that, which is something I've been talking about for years. You know, I always said this, the real secret to the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe up until about Endgame was that Kevin Feige made sure that every Marvel movie was a potential entry point for a new fan. I've told you this before. I literally have a friend of mine whose name you know, but I won't say who it is. I've told this story before. I have a friend of mine who had not seen a single MCU movie until Infinity War came out. And while they certainly didn't catch all the nuance of Infinity War, they didn't feel lost watching it. They felt like the movie did a great job of telling its story without you having to have seen stuff previous. Would you have gotten more out of the movie had you seen the previous stuff? Absolutely. Absolutely. But they were able to sit down and watch that movie and not feel lost. They felt like they knew what was going on. They understood the parameters. They knew what was at stake, all that kind of stuff, and they're able to do it. Since Endgame, that's become less and less true. Particularly Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, because people who didn't watch WandaVision, and let's face it, the majority of people out there never saw WandaVision. People who didn't see WandaVision, all of a sudden, wait a minute, Wanda's a bad guy? Since when? What? Huh? Like, it really started to happen there, and it's something they're going to have to be very, very careful of moving forward. They got to be very careful of that moving forward. All right, next up. We've got Johnny Got Lost writes, Rosa Salazar's Diamondback was cut. I wonder if they use her elsewhere or bury the character. P.S. Rosa was the lead in Alita Battle Angel. I ended up really that was a movie that I didn't think looked very good, and I ended up really enjoying it. I hope they get a sequel made someday. I don't think they will, but I hope they do. Anyway, yeah, a number of people were cut out of the film. For those of you who are professional wrestling fans, Seth freaking Rollins was a lot of wrestling fans got excited that he was going to be in the movie. Then that character got cut out of the movie. Again, the sense I got was the changes they made probably made the movie better than it was. But I also have a feeling that if they do get around to using that character again, I think they'll use her. So I think probably they'll just save her for another time. I don't know that, but that's my guess. All right, next up. Matt Mobile writes, the green screen on the leader when he turned himself in with Sam was painful to watch. Same with some shots when Sam was talking. Rulk probably meant Hulk down. Here's the thing. I don't know for sure that those were green screen scenes. I totally could be. Totally could be. But it's just, here's the thing, Matt Mobile. It's very reminiscent to me of when Last of Us was on, right? And in Last of Us Season 1, there was that scene with the giraffe. And everybody on the internet, not everybody, but a whole lot of people on the internet jumped on and said, oh, the CGI on that giraffe was so bad. That giraffe looks so fake. Oh, why did they use that CGI giraffe? Here's the thing, though. It wasn't a CGI giraffe. It was a real giraffe. It was an actual real giraffe that they used on the scene and shot it and all that it was a real giraffe. There was no CGI. So that I find that happens sometimes where people are like, oh man, the green screen on that was really bad. And then it turned out there was no green screen on that. Again, I'm not saying there was or wasn't green screen in those shots. And they certainly did look a bit funky. Absolutely. I'm just saying, I don't know for sure that they were actually green screen or not. Maybe they just looked funky. I don't know. Just my thought. So you could be right, Matt Mobile. I just thought we should be careful about that though. All right. Marquise Johnson writes, the movie did not do a good job showing why Sam shouldn't take the serum. I agree. It showed that he was just as worthy of it as Steve and could have used it. I don't know that it did a good job showing that he was just as worthy as Steve. After all, Steve was the only guy who could lift Thor's hammer. That's neither here nor there. The funny thing is, to your point, Marquise, there was an interview that Anthony Mackie did last week where he talks about why it's important that Sam didn't take the serum. And I thought in that interview, that short little clip from that interview, Anthony Mackie did a far better job of kind of explaining why he didn't take the serum than the movie did. The only thing the movie did for me was kind of say, hey, Sam, it's okay that you didn't take the serum. I never got the sense in the movie that it was important that he not take the serum. Like, the movie never does a good job or even remotely tries to explain why he shouldn't have taken the serum. It's always just, it's okay that you didn't take the serum. You know what I mean? And so, again, when you look at Isaiah didn't become a bad man because he had the serum. Bucky didn't become bad because he took the serum. Bucky became bad because he was brainwashed. Steve didn't become a bad man because he took the serum. I really don't know why this movie did not do a good job explaining why Sam didn't take it. And even in that last scene when he's fighting the Hulk, he's like, I should have taken the serum. Bucky's full of shit. Like, I don't mind that he didn't take the serum. I'm just saying, I think you were 100% right that the movie did not do a good job explaining why it's important that he didn't take the serum. That's just me. All right. Thanks for that, Marquise. Next up, working on a groovy thing writes, wish they kept Stern's promo art look. Oh, well, I don't remember the promo art look. I'll have to go back and take a look. I don't remember the promo art look, but I'll have to go take a look. All right. Sonic 2000 just sends in a super chat badge to be supportive. Thank you, Sonic. Appreciate that, man. Piero writes, Sam and Bucky went from no to love you, buddy. Their struggle to live up to Steve brought them together. A beautiful arc. I love that scene. Listen, as somebody who did not particularly like this movie, 100% agree with you. That was a great scene. It was a great scene. It was just a good, human, heartfelt, real scene that I thought was absolutely one of the highlights of the movie. Just that he would be there for him. And again, that little line as he's leaving saying, I love you, buddy. I mean, a little line like that I thought meant so much. So yeah, I'm with you on that, Piero. I thought that was a really, really good moment. Let's see. Next up, Brian Beldos writes, the shield magic was ridiculous when Sam hit the missiles in the air with no super soldier serum. Yeah, see, that's the other thing. I'm glad you brought that up, Brian. Remembering that Sam does not have the super soldier serum. He cannot move as fast or throw as hard or throw as far, or he's just not as strong as Steve was. He's doing things with a shield that a human being with human being level speed, agility, coordination, and strength should not be able to do. So, while I said, even when Steve did it, sometimes it felt a little silly. Even when Steve did it. But Steve had superhuman reflexes, agility, speed, and strength. Sam is doing like utterly ridiculous things without any of those advantages. So I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't. So I'm glad you did that, man. All right. Let's see. Next up, we got Mr. I again, who's the birthday boy writes, I'd watch Elijah Bradley's special presentation showing him becoming a super soldier, his heroics as a super soldier, and then the government imprisoning him. I would watch that too. Although it does sound like they're not doing any more special presentations, which is a shame because the two they did do, it was just two, right? The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which is now my favorite Christmas special. More than Rudolph, more than Frosty, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special is my favorite Christmas special. And they did, not Moon Knight, Werewolf by Night. Werewolf by Night was really good. So I wish they would do more special presentations, but it sounds like they're not planning on doing any more of those, unfortunately. All right. Mr. I writes again, all with Carl Lumbly narrating to his grandson, the future patriot. Yeah. Again, I would be down for that, but I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's something that they're actually ever going to do, unfortunately. All right. Next up, Matt Mobile writes, what's going on with that Liv Tyler cameo? You think there was some CGI or deep fake stuff happening there? Seemed off and weird. There was no close up. Maybe. I mean, Liv Tyler still looks great today. Always will. But I don't know why you would have felt the need to digitally de-age her at all. Like it's everything's in time. She is the age. Liv Tyler is the age she's supposed to be. Now, I'm not saying they did digitally de-age her. For all I know, it's just good makeup or whatever. But if they did digitally de-age her, I'm not quite sure why they would feel the need to do that. Because it doesn't make any sense. It's not like this movie was supposed to happen 8 years ago. So you want to de-age her a little bit. It's like, this is happening now. So why would you feel the de-age her? Again, I'm not saying they did, but it looks like they might have. And if they did, I just don't know why they felt the need to do it. All right. Next up, Mr. Godzilla writes, so it looks like this movie has a very good opening, a little under expectations, but I need to ask John, how will it fare come second weekend? I mean, Ant-Man 3 opened big, but how big did Ant-Man 3 open? I'm not quite sure how big it did. Let me look this up here. Ant-Man Quantumania box office. Let's see here. So Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania opened to $106 million. That was pretty big. That's like 20 million more than Captain America Brave New World did. Captain America Brave New World opened to $88 million, which isn't bad. That's not bad. It's a little under expectations, but it's not bad. How will it do on its second weekend? Well, as we go to the calendar, we just had Captain America Brave New World open. So next week we have, I don't think there's any wide release movies opening next week. No, there's none. We've got a few limited release movies, but nothing, no big opening thing. I don't know, might do okay. Listen, I don't think we're going to see like some awesome 40% drop. I think you're going to be looking at it like a 60% drop, but maybe it'll be okay. But yeah, it opened to $88 million, which is not great. We'll see how the second weekend does. Again, it made about almost 20 million, 18 million less than Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania made on its opening weekend. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Again, the fact that it doesn't have any real competition next weekend is absolutely working in its favor. So yeah, we'll see. All right. Okay. And again, here's this debate that happens. There are some people in the live chat saying, well, John, that's not how much it made worldwide opening week. You don't compare opening weekends worldwide because every movie opens in a different number of territories. Some movies will open in 8 territories. Some movies will open in 68 territories. You never compare opening weekend for the worldwide thing because every movie opens in a different number of markets. You always compare it to the apples to apples comparison, which is domestic. So whenever you talk about opening weekend, you have to be talking about domestic opening weekend because that's the only one you can compare. Because there's no point in trying, because I remember when Mufasa opened and Sonic 3 opened, but it was pointless to look at the international markets because I think one opened in like 40 international markets and one opened in like 10. So there was no point in trying to compare the opening weekend globally. You can only compare the opening weekend domestically. That's the only apples to apples comparison you have. And in that apples to apples comparison, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania opened to $106 million and Captain America: Brave New World opened to $88 million. That's your apples to apples comparison. All right. Now what it'll do second weekend, I don't know. Again, it's going to help that it doesn't have any strong competition opening up against it. All right. Next up. Marybeth writes, I would have liked to have seen Sharon Carter over Ruth for this movie, play more into the politics. No, I just don't. Listen, I like the Sharon Carter character very much. I'm looking forward to seeing her on screen again. But her being in this movie would have made no sense. She has no connection to this story, right? Yeah, I think you would have just been putting her in there for the sake of putting her in. So I don't know that it would have been much, but I am looking forward to seeing the character again. I just make sure you put her, like, again, Iron Wars is the best place for her to pop up if Iron Wars ever happens. All right. Next up, Gopala writes, I'd rather have seen Bucky doing politics. It is going to be interesting to see how Bucky can run for Congress when for decades he was a mass killer. Going to be interesting to see how they justify that. All right. Next up, though, Steven writes, hey, John, I like this movie more than you did. Not even close to loving it, though, but I thought the music was really bad. That seems to be a common refrain here. That means something to me. Yeah. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I didn't think the music in the movie was particularly good, but it didn't super stand out to me. But it is surprising to see how many people are writing in saying how much the music really turned them off. That's surprising. That means something, Steven. It really does. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. All right. Next up, where are we at? Don Juan writes, I love Cap 4. Me and the rest of the Rotten Tomatoes audience score 80%. I just want to point out that an audience score of 80% is one of the lowest MCU audience scores. Just want to point that out. That 80% is actually one of the lower. As I go and pull this up, where are we at here? Yes, Thor: Love and Thunder, that everybody seems to decry. You know what the audience, remember, Captain America: Brave New World right now, 80. You know what the Thor: Love and Thunder audience score is? 76. Only 4 points off. Let me check Quantumania. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which had a 46% critic rating, by the way. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Anybody want to guess what the audience score on that is? The one that everybody's saying is like one of the worst MCU movies. Anybody want to guess what the Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania audience score is? 81. Higher. The audience score of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is higher than Captain America: Brave New World. I'm not saying that means anything. Okay. I'm just kind of pointing that out. So that one has a higher audience score. Another one a lot of people seem to not like, I did, The Marvels. You know how a lot of people on here are saying The Marvels is so bad? I actually personally kind of like The Marvels, but whatever. Want to know how high the audience score is for The Marvels? 80%. Same score as Captain America: Brave New World. There is a reason why I often talk about how Rotten Tomatoes at least has verified audience scores. Like the people who are voting on Rotten Tomatoes only counts them if they actually saw the movie. And that's a good thing. But audience scores are often skewed. They are. which is why critic scores who have no skin in the game often mean much more to me than audience scores do, because audience scores often skew. So you have to put it into context, right? Context means everything. And the context of Captain America Brave New World, actually, I'm looking at it, says 79% audience score. The context of Captain America Brave New World having a 79% audience score is that that's actually one of the lowest MCU audience scores. It's lower than the Marvels. It's lower than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's barely better than Thor: Love and Thunder, all films that most MCU fans say are the weakest of the MCU films. So again, I'm not trying to discredit anything. I'm just saying that you have to take it in context. An 80% audience score for Captain America Brave New World is actually one of the lowest ones that the MCU has. Actually, even if I go and look at a movie that I think is terrible, let me pull one up for a movie that I think is terrible. So I think Thor: The Dark World is one of the worst ones. I think it's like worst or second worst MCU movie is Thor: The Dark World. You know what its audience score is? 74. Only 5 points off of Captain America Brave New World. So I'm just saying, take it for as you will. Take it as you will. Interpret it any way you want. That's fine. But I am saying just keep it in context. And in context, Captain America Brave New World's audience score is one of the lowest that the MCU has had. That's just the context. You interpret that as to meaning whatever way you want to interpret it, though. All right. Let's see here. Raymond Verada writes, Easter egg, the military guy Dumphy, who died of a heart attack, is D-Man in Marvel Comics. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know who D-Man is. That's a care. Sometimes things get brought up and I don't know what they are. At least off the top of my head, I don't remember who D-Man is, but thank you for the little piece of trivia, Raymond. All right. Next up. Lemekel KH2 writes, for me, I liked it, but it just felt like a limiter was placed on every aspect of the film. It just needed a step up in complexity across the board, and thought like Bruce should have been there. I'm okay. Like, really, here's the thing though. When you actually look at the movie, at what point narratively would Bruce Banner have come in? There's really no point that Bruce Banner would have logically been introduced into this movie. Thunderbolt Ross doesn't like Bruce very much, so it's not like Thunderbolt Ross would have given him a call. And Red Hulk just showed up out of nowhere, and then the fight happened, and then it was done. So it's not like the Red Hulk appeared, and then 2 or 3 days pass, and then the fight with Falcon or Sam, Captain America, happens. It's like Hulk appears, fight happens immediately. So there was really no point in this movie that it would have been logical for Bruce to show up. You know what I'm saying? So I'll give them a pass on that. I'll give them a pass on that. All right. Let me check something here. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do something that I really want to be able to do. No, I'm not. Okay. Guys, here's the thing. We've been going now for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and I've been drinking a lot of liquid. I need to take a bathroom break before we finish off the last remainder of the questions. So if you guys will indulge me, there's going to be about 90 seconds of dead air, but I'm going to take a bathroom break if you guys don't mind. So if you guys will hang in with me, talk amongst yourselves, I'll be back in like 2 minutes. I'll be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for indulging me as I took a little bit of a break there. Let's keep things going now, shall we? We're going to pick things up here with Noam, who writes, enjoyable film with a lot of problems. Mackie was fire. Mackie is always fire. Like, that's the thing. Like, with all the problems I have with this movie, the performance of Anthony Mackie, who just always delivers, was definitely not one of them. All right, next up. We got Bean Dip Supreme writes, I like Black Panther 2, a movie without its lead character, Hulk. Again, I disagree with that sentiment. Again, it felt more like a sequel to the Hulk movie, yes, but there was never a time in this movie that it felt like Bruce would be there. There was no logical point for him to ever be there. So I don't particularly like this movie, but I don't know if I agree with you on that particular criticism though. But thanks for sharing it. All right, next up. Jason Moore writes, sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Jason, for supporting us on that level, man. And Jason writes, I thought it was fun, but I think they messed up by stressing he's just a regular human. Then he does this super soldier shit. I wish it was called Falcon, a Captain American story, or something to that effect. Again, to me, this was he was Falcon in this movie. Everything he does is Falcon things to do. But yeah, listen, if you want to go the route of saying he's just a regular human, like Hawkeye, then have him do exceptional yet still human things. Don't make him survive things that a human cannot survive. Don't make him accomplish things that a human could not accomplish, even under exceptional circumstances. Like, they have Hawkeye do a lot of crazy shit, and it's a comic book movie, so we have to stretch our believability a little bit. I understand that. But you never see Hawkeye pick up a car and throw it, right? If you want to make it a big point of contention and a big deal that Sam doesn't have the super soldier serum and he's just a regular human, then don't also have him do and survive things that regular humans by any stretch of the imagination could do or survive. You kind of defeat your own purpose when you do that. I'm cool with keeping him just human. Then make him just human. I'm cool if you want to give him the super soldier serum. Then give him the super soldier serum. I just felt like they were trying to do a bit of both and neither worked. But anyway, that's just me. All right. Next up, Mary Beth writes, I think Val should have shown up in the post-credit to get us ready for Thunderbolts. I still really like this movie. Yeah, having Valentina show up probably wouldn't have been a bad idea. Unless they couldn't come up with a way for it to logically fit. But it definitely, listen, Mary Beth, it definitely would have been better than the post-credit scene we got. And it's not that important. A post-credit scene's a post-credit scene. Who cares? But, I mean, the post-credit scene we got was pretty bad. And I think one with Valentina instead, just even if she's talking to some random guy saying, this proves my point, we need to get a team together or something like that, I think that probably would have been pretty advantageous for them to do. So I think you're right about that. All right, next up. Tom Weinberg writes, watch The Winter Soldier again. Huge difference in writing. For example, the way that the film set up Sam as a character versus how they set up Joaquin. Absolutely. Go back. Now, it's almost, admittedly, it's a little unfair to try to compare any movie to Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is commonly accepted as one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. So maybe it's a little unfair. But you're right. You go and compare the writing, directing, story flow, everything of Winter Soldier to this, it's a night and day difference, Tom. I completely agree with you on that. Let's see. Next up. If Joaquin has a physical helmet, why is Sam's CGI? I don't know for a fact that Sam's helmet was CGI. I mean, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Well, you know what it probably is? Sometimes, like Tony, Iron Man, had a real physical helmet he wore sometimes. And then sometimes it had to be CGI because sometimes the helmet would open in a very CGI way. So what I'm betting is that Sam probably had a real helmet, but in scenes where the helmet would go and come off his face, that has to be CGI. So my guess is maybe it was a mixture of both. All right. Let's see. Slarf writes, love the chemistry with Ruth, Cap, and new Falcon. I like I didn't really feel anything with her, but I do like the chemistry between Sam and Joaquin. Again, I just don't think Joaquin, hey, you're a good kid. You did all right there today. You're going to be an Avenger. That seemed like a bit of a stretch to me. I mean, fuck, even Spider-Man had to go through a lot more for Tony to finally go, all right, you're an Avenger, right? Even Spider-Man had to go through a hell of a lot more to finally get being dubbed an Avenger. Anyway, Seth Castro writes, hey, John and crew, I actually really like the movie, but man, you know the CGI is bad. When my mom pointed out the bag CGI, oh, you probably meant bad CGI in the end on green screen. I don't know particularly the scene you're talking about. But yeah, the CGI was good. But you know what? Here's the thing. As somebody who used to work in CGI, bad CGI bothers me, but it doesn't actually, like if you have a good movie's still a good movie if you've got some bad CGI. Like a bad CGI to me doesn't take a good movie and make it bad. It just, I mean, it's a distraction. It takes away a little bit, but it doesn't make a good movie a bad movie. Just like great CGI doesn't make a bad movie a good movie. So I did notice some CGI struggle a little bit. CGI does struggle a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to give you that. All right. Matt Mobile writes, if someone told me while watching Civil War that the next Cap movie would be all about Sam and Ross, I wouldn't have believed them. Yes, true. But it's also, the other Captain America movies were Steve Rogers movies. This isn't a Steve Rogers movie, right? It's a Sam Wilson movie. So it's different parameters. Yeah, he's using the same nickname that Steve Rogers did, but it's not Steve Rogers. It's a different character altogether. But you're right. If you had told me after watching Civil War that the next Captain America movie would basically be the continuation of the Hulk movie, I probably wouldn't have believed it either, Matt Mobile. I also probably would not have believed it. All right. Next up, Patrick Stewart sends in a $20 super chat. Thank you, Patrick. And he writes, Red Hulk, the Tiamat battle scene, Isaiah, and Bucky helped tip things to the net positive for me. This movie was decent. My dad and I had a good time overall. This movie has no effect on my big excitement for Thunderbolts. Yeah, see, I agree. I think the Red Hulk scene was great. The Tiamat battle was great. Isaiah was great. And Bucky was great. I agree with all of you. I agree with all of that, 100%. But whereas you still lean a little bit more positive, I still think it leaned a little bit more negative. But I agree with you in the sense that even though I overall didn't end up liking Captain America Brave New World, it hasn't affected my excitement for Thunderbolts. As a matter of fact, being kind of underwhelmed by Brave New World has actually made me even more excited for Daredevil and Thunderbolts. Because I just think we're going to get better. I think we're going to get better from Daredevil and Thunderbolts. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm actually even kind of more excited about seeing those now because I was let down a little bit by Captain America 4, to be honest with you. All right, next up. Sonic 2000 writes, do you think Sam should lead the Avengers? Absolutely not. While I only think the movie is okay, I still really like Sam's character. I've always liked Sam's character. Sam Wilson's a great character. I've liked him from the moment he showed up in Winter Soldier, to his cameo appearance in Ant-Man, to his on your left coming out in Endgame. I love Sam's character. But he was just a sidekick to one of the core Avengers members. He is neither, he doesn't, like, again, just compare him to somebody like Rhodey. Hey, new girl, we're all about that superhero life. Just compare him to Rhodey. Rhodey outclasses him in every form, right? As far as who should be a leader of the Avengers. Rhodey militarily has more experience than him. He has more leadership experience than him. He outranks him. He's been an Avenger longer. He's been around like in every way, shape, and form. Rhodey, a true career leader, is far more qualified to be the leader of the Avengers than Sam is. You think Thor is going to take orders from Steve's sidekick? Now, to be fair, though, I don't know who should be the leader of the Avengers now. Like, without Steve and without Tony there, I honestly don't know who should be the leader of the Avengers. But there are certain characters I definitely don't think it should be. I don't think Doctor Strange should be the leader of the Avengers because he's not even an Avenger technically. So I don't think Doctor Strange can be it. I don't think I love Shang. You guys know how much I love Shang-Chi. I think that's the best Marvel movie since Endgame. I love Shang-Chi, but he shouldn't be the leader of the Avengers. You know who maybe could be the leader of the Avengers? Hawkeye. Maybe. An OG Avenger, been doing it longer than everybody else. Definitely as far as non-superpowered people, he's the most lethal and the most deadly. He's been at it the longest. He's been through the highs. He's lost the most. He gained it back. Maybe. Even then, I'm not sure. So while I'm saying that, no, Sam should not be the leader of the Avengers, I say that, but I include the asterisk that I don't really know that there is any other strong contender to be a leader of the Avengers. Again, I would rather take Rhodey. I would rather take Hawkeye. Those are a couple, but I don't see Thor being the leader of the Avengers. So yeah. But no, I really don't see it being Sam. But then again, I'm not really sure who it would be. All right. Next up, Billy B writes, I know we're supposed to suspend our disbelief, but how is Bucky running for Congress? I asked that question as well. He's an assassin and he also killed JFK in the MCU. Did they say he killed John F. Kennedy? That's not true, is it? I don't think that's the case. Anyway, but yeah, he was a deadly. Now, yes, you can say he was brainwashed and all that kind of stuff, but that kind of background, I think would probably disqualify you from maybe running for Congress. But then again, I'm not trying to get into politics. I live in the United States and we currently have a convicted criminal who is currently the president of the United States. So I don't know. Maybe it's not all that wild that they would do it in the MCU. Art imitating life and what have you. All right. Next up, we've got Dune, who happens to be the name of my dog. Ruth and Ross's secretary should have been one role. We know that wasn't his secretary. That was like his main Secret Service. But you know what? You're right. I hadn't thought about that, but I think you're right. I think that Widow character and his main Secret Service agent probably, you know what? You're right. They should have just been blended into one character. Yeah. I don't know how much that would have helped or saved the movie, but it would have made it more streamlined and it would have made it more efficient and would have given a greater purpose to that character. Remember what I've been saying? I didn't mind the Black Widow character. She just didn't really feel to have any real significant purpose in the movie. If you had taken those two characters and blended them made one character out of it, yeah, I agree. I think that would have improved it. That's a good call. Good call, Dune. Let's see. Tyler Lynch writes, do you think we'll see Savage Hulk in the MCU again? I certainly hope so. That's the best Hulk. Again, like I said earlier in the show, I don't even mind a focused Savage Hulk, right? Like in Avengers, he's Savage Hulk, but in that final battle in New York, he is focused on which side he's on. In Age of Ultron, he has to be brought down. Hey, big guy, sun's getting really low. They had to bring him down, but So I don't even mind a focused Hulk, but yeah, I'd rather see Savage Hulk. I hope they do. I don't know if they can at this point, but I hope they do. All right, last question. Because I turned off super chats like an hour ago. Billy G writes, Baron Zemo's plan in Civil War was better, and it didn't require a gamma-enhanced brain. Yeah, and I don't even think Baron Zemo's plan in Civil War was all that good. I'll be honest with you. And it was a better plan than the leader's plan. The leader's plan made no sense. It had multiple points of failure, and it just wasn't very well thought out for a guy who can deduce the multiverse. There's no way his plan was going to work. Anyway, at least the original plan, over the Indian Ocean, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, tell you what, guys, even though we've already gone overtime, we've been going 2.5 hours. I'm going to take a couple of questions from you guys in the live chat. So if you're in the live chat and you have a question, look in the live chat right now. See what I just did? I put format it like that. Put in all capital letters, question, colon. That way I know you're asking me a question. You're not just talking amongst yourselves. And I'll take a moment here just to answer a couple. I'm not going to answer all of them. I'm just going to pick a couple and we'll answer a couple. Right, next up. IMJMS writes, question, do you think Cap 4 movie will hurt Fantastic Four First Steps? Well, first of all, we've got a number of other Marvel projects coming out before Fantastic Four. So as long as Daredevil is good and Thunderbolts is good, both of which I think will be, then no, Fantastic Four will be fine. It's too far away. Let's see here. Rick is right. John, did you look like Geddy Lee when you had long hair? I pictured you looking like him. I don't think I look like Geddy Lee, but yeah, back in my rocker days when I was playing in bands, I used to have like hair down to here. I had pretty long hair, but I don't think I look like Geddy Lee of Rush. Let's see. Mr. I writes, do you think Jen Walters is now Thaddeus Ross's lawyer? Well, Thaddeus ended up losing and he's in jail. So I don't think that she has anything to do with it, unfortunately. Let's see. Where do we go? Okay. Only Morale writes, John, you said you don't think Sam can lead the Avengers. I was just talking about that. But will you have a different view on Sam Wilson when the Russos get a hold of him? Because the Russos worked with Sam before. It's kind of irrelevant because Sam is who the character has been up until now. And as great as of a character Sam is, and I love seeing him in the MCU, he's not a leader of the Avengers. So it almost doesn't matter what the Russo brothers do with him because he's still the character he has been up until this point. So I don't know. I think that's going to be a real, and honestly, I don't think Captain America Brave New World is going to do fantastic at the box office overall. It's got a very lukewarm reception. Again, the Marvels, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania has a higher audience score than this movie does. The Marvels has a higher audience score than this movie does. So I'm not quite sure where they go from here. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. Listen, lest anybody think I'm just being overly negative on the MCU. You guys know I'm an MCU fan. And I have been critical of a number of things they've done and failed to do in the last couple of years. But I've also called out a number of their huge wins. Ms. Marvel, WandaVision, Shang-Chi, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Deadpool and Wolverine. These are some of the big wins they've had. And I think the future of the MCU is very strong right now. Again, the next couple of things we got Daredevil coming up. I think that's going to be great. Thunderbolts is coming up. I think that's going to be great. Fantastic Four is coming up. I think that's going to be great. I'm not just poo-pooing on the MCU to poo-poo on. I didn't think they did a very good job. Certainly not by Marvel standards. But I still think the future looks bright. And I think we got some really good things ahead. And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's special live broadcast stream of us talking about Captain America Brave New World in an open spoiler format. Thank you so much for being here and joining me here today. Big thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you were doing it. And everybody involved with the channel, thanks you guys so very much for your support. Again, guys, I didn't like the film overall, but if you did, I think that's great. I'm not trying to talk you out of liking it. I'm just telling you why I didn't personally, but I love the fact that you did if you did. And for those of you who agree with me and didn't think it was very good, let's not worry too much. We got Daredevil coming up and we got Thunderbolts coming up, which I think is going to be way better than I ever thought it would be. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining me here today. Don't forget, come on back and join us tomorrow for our new episode of the John Campea Show. We already got a number of things, including, see, Conclave just won Best Picture of the Year at the British Academy Awards at the BAFTAs. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Captain America's box office. We've got a number of things already lined up. Hopefully you guys will come back and join us for that. So that'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.